I was born as the black sheep of the family. Got beaten up every single day. Man, that really hurt. I practiced black magic in secret, and after eliminating several people who mocked me, I ended up becoming the monarch of death, the king of the dead. Then I went to another realm called Neuropia, which looks more like hell. I raised an army and became the symbol of supreme power. But 70 years later, I was bored with all of it. Maybe I just lacked a wife to torment my life. So I created a spell to go back in time to when I was just a human treated like trash. Me and my right-hand man, the army commander, went back together, both from noble families but ones that were supposed to be broke. However, in this timeline, everything was different. My family actually had money, but my parents were dead, all because of a war against another family over a copper vein on the border. The enemy army commander was extremely powerful and finished off my father on the battlefield. The only solution the protagonist found was to request a duel to the death against this guy, wagering all the prestige and the copper. And it is at this moment that I return to the past. I am about to duel against the strongest knight. Maybe I'm dead? Later, a table's loaded with mouth-watering food. The main guy says it's for his buddy for always having his back. Baroth starts munching and asks his master if he's chill since the duel's creeping up. Karnak then asks if his buddy could step in for him. The dude's like, "Nah, I'm too weak right now." And his master remembers when he took down 3 of the 4 big bosses. Baroth says he only pulled that off because of his master's necromancy. He then says if he had 6 months to train, he might stand a chance, but in just a month, no way. Then he asks why not hit up a knight from the Jestrad house. With a sneaky grin, the main guy says that plan's a bust, and they only got one shot, necromancy. But the dude points out another snag. Everyone would find out he used that banned magic. Then he asks his buddy if he remembers their first escape. They handled some baddies on the down low, but the priests pegged him as the bad guy, making them bolt. A squad of knights rolled up, boxing the boys in. Everyone there was sure Karnak was the necromancer. Seeing he was trapped, the dude busts out one of his dark tricks. The guys freak out, yelling about evil spirits. But they whip out a talisman they think wards off bad vibes. But the charms flop, and the spirits start phasing through the enemies, making them wonder why their plan's failing. Then the main guy wipes out his foes, and decides to bounce before backup shows up. Karnak asks how they sniffed out his necromancy, since the book says no one could do that, and his buddy explains it works on knights and mages. But apparently, the clergy's a different story. Back in the now, the two crack up about how it all kicked off. Barrow says the plan's a no-brainer after thinking back. The main guy, in turn, says he probably planned to make it look like a regular duel, but really, the plan's to sneak in necromancy. But his buddy reminds him the judges are clergy priests, and the dude realizes using his powers would just be a rerun of the past. Then Barrow suggests they stack some cash to make a getaway. But the main guy says there's no need to bail, because now people dig them, and his buddy gets he ain't backing down from the fight. But Karnak asks his buddy to hang tight. Then he says he's got a better plan, but it's risky. Meanwhile, in the Deventer zone, a crew's training. Randolph's watching from a distance. Then someone calls him, asking how the duel prep's going. The guy says there's nothing to sweat, and the person still says it's never too much to be ready. Randolph says he's just wasting time with that duel, and the young dude thinks he's sure the knight will win, but he's clueless about what this new baron's up to with this challenge. Then the person finds it odd the big crowd near their training grounds cause of the merchants, but decides to shrug it off and get back to training. Baroth, who's blending in with the crowd, says he finally gets what's up. The dude grins, thinking it wasn't so bad to snoop on the enemy, because he sees Randolph can be taken down as he's just a fool who leans on heavy swords and doesn't know the basics of a fight. And this is good news because opponents like him are easy. Their moves are predictable. But a month is still super short. Then a pretty girl pops up behind him, asking if he's got business with her bro, Randolph. The dude stands up, making up that he's just admiring the knight's strength. To switch gears, the young dude offers some sheets he's selling, and the girl, in turn, gets sidetracked by the goods. After a bit, Baroth heads back to the Jestrad mansion, asking how his master's doing in training. But he stumbles upon Karnak sprawled on the floor, looking like he just lost a battle with a tornado. Panicking, the dude starts shaking him, and Karnak's all, "Chill, or I'm gonna hurl up my lunch." The guy mentions he did his workout but ended up passing out, and his buddy's like, "Bro, you're seriously out of shape." Then he's all, "You can't do squat with that noodle body." Karnak's like, "Just need a sec to catch my breath, then back to it." Baroth's like, "Wait, what? That was just the warm-up, dude." With a cheeky grin, the guy's all, "The real deal starts now." First up, the hero's gotta chow down on a solid breakfast. Then, it's straight to the field for 100 push-ups. Next, 100 swings with a weighted bar. Then, 100 squats, no slacking. Only after all that, a tiny break is allowed. Then, rinse and repeat, my dude. On day 15, Karnak's squatting with bags like a pro. Baroth pops up, saying his endurance is finally leveling up. And he's like, time to hit the sword training. Right after, he hands over the gear. But then, the guy's tweaking his master's stance like a pro. Karnak's thinking, man, this dude's a total drill sergeant. Then Barath's like, I'm gonna attack, and the guys all bring it on. But he gets smacked before he can even blink. No chill. The guy's like, get back in position, bro. Karnak's thinking, this dude's attacks are savage, hard to dodge. Then, bam, another hit to the gut, and he's down for the count. Barrow's like, this is why knights can mess with regular folks. Karnak's all, this stance isn't blocking squat. The guy's like, we gotta show Randolph you're serious, and Karnak's like, why's that matter in a duel? Barrow's like, the enemy loves to flex, but when they lose steam, it's game over. The guy's like, you gotta look like you're in it to win it. That's the only way to dodge a quick KO. With 5 days till the duel, Karnak's still grinding on sword skills, but his buddy's blocking like it's nothing, saying he needs more oomph. Then he's like, yell louder, so even the folks outside hear you. Right after, Karnak blocks an attack, but still gets tossed like a ragdoll. Barath's like, never block a heavy hit, or you'll get sliced. Roll instead. Karnak's thinking, man, that's tough. Next day, the guy nails the roll like a boss. With 2 days left, Karnak's dodging like a ninja. After training, the guy's like, I might croak before facing Randolph at this rate. Barrow's like, you're almost there, dude. Time for the final boss level. Then he's like, I'll show you the 4 great kings' sword moves. Karnak's all, wait, you know that? And he's like, I know it all. All 4 kings were my crew, except Rapazul. I got their styles down. Karnak's like, why not Rapazul? Barrow's like, Master didn't make her a death knight. So, as payback, she got turned into the castle's guard. Then Karnak's like, 2 days enough for that? And the guy's like, we only need 1, bro. Finally, duel day's here, at the Devontor and Jestard border. Most folks think Randolph's got it in the bag, but they're hoping for a good show. Some just want Karnak's hard work to pay off. Then the guy rolls up to his buddy with a look that says, we got this. Then, this old dude pops up, asking everyone to zip it, and spills the tea that both houses want a trial to see who gets the copper mine. On one side, there's Lord Karnak, boss of House Jestard, and on the flip side, Sir Randolph, the knight from Devontor. The guy judging the duel asks if they promise to keep it fair in the name of the goddess, and both are like, yeah, sure. After that, the elder says since the warriors made their vows, justice might just lean towards the truth. And then he drops the bomb that the trial by combat is about to kick off. Randolph grins, telling his opponent to back off from the duel, but he moves forward, saying it's way too late for that now. Karnak, on the other hand, blocks the attack, saying the other guy's about to see what's up. The man then notes that the young dude isn't just some scaredy cat. He keeps swinging, but the boy's got mad defense skills. House Jestard's crew is hyped seeing their leader go toe-to-toe with the enemy, while Barrow thinks the first round was all part of the plan. Randolph's moves weren't quick or scary, and he was clearly sizing up his rival. Karnak's thinking everything's going smooth, and next up, he needs to show he's not easy pickings. The young dude then yells, daring the enemy to bring it on, and the knight, in turn, grins at the boy's guts. Randolph gears up to strike, asking if the enemy's ready to spice things up. The main guy's freaking out from the sword pressure, knowing his shield won't cut it, so he decides to roll out of there with his skills. The man's baffled by what just went down. The crowd's blown away by the head of House Jestard dodging that attack with a simple roll move. Karnak gets up, saying he won't even need his shield for this fight, cause his enemy's so slow, even a snail could beat him in a race. Randolph's ticked off by those jabs and says he'll make his rival zip it, but instead of being scared, the boy grins, telling his enemy to come at him. The main guy quickly gets into a combat stance. People instantly recognize that move as one of the great kings, while others from House Jestard are wowed, realizing it's their master's training paying off. The knight grins, thinking he just needs to chill to win, cause the great king's sword moves can only be done by a few geniuses who've nailed the battle aura, and no way a fool like that could master it. Then, he stretches his sword, saying in the name of the goddess, justice will win. Karnak starts shaking, cause his opponent's got those assassin eyes. After that, he remembers chatting with Baroth a few hours before the duel, where the young dude says his buddy just needs to hide how much he's leveled up in the last month. Back in the fight, the main guy's annoyed cause his friend didn't mention he'd be so rattled. But still, the boy keeps on dueling. With tears in his eyes, Karnak says the knight's got no shot at beating him and asks if he thought that'd be enough to take down Jestard. Randolph, in turn, is puzzled since his rival's losing right now. The crowd's touched by the main guy's bravery. Baroth grins and says the situation's just perfect. The knight's getting more and more ticked off, cause the young dude seemed about to bite the dust, yet he's still talking smack. Soon after, he charges at the boy. Baroth gets hyped, realizing this is the moment they've been waiting for, and yells to his master, telling him to get ready. A few hours before the duel, the young dude tells his buddy he'll teach him some tricks, and explains that Randolph will probably go for the legs. The main guy should then use that chance to get into a guard position by planting his sword in the ground. Seeing that, the knight's caught off guard. After that, Karnak should swing his sword diagonally to throw the opponent off balance. Then, the main guy takes that chance to strike his enemy. Because of the hit, blood splatters in part of the arena. The boy starts sweating after pulling off that move. Randolph, in turn, starts laughing and asks if that's his best shot, because he's had worse cat scratches than that tiny cut. People watch without a peep, and the young dude says this battle's already got a clear winner, and that the world really isn't fair. After that, the dude says because of that recent goof-up, he's going to be the butt of jokes for a while, and the young guy asks if that's really his big worry. With a grin, the main dude says it makes things easier, and he won't have to feel bad about what's coming next. Suddenly, the knight starts feeling all kinds of weird, and then something dark starts oozing from the cut like it's got a mind of its own. The guy judging the fight seems to know what that spooky energy is. Randolph's not phased and tries to shake off the shadowy stuff on him. Karnak sees his chance to move in and tells his enemy he won't back down no matter what sneaky tricks he pulls. The young dude's leg starts moving on its own, and lands a kick on the young guy, launching him out of the arena. Everyone watching is totally shook by the wild aura Randolph's giving off. Barroth pops up, accusing the knight of using necromancy and saying it's totally devil power. Without a second thought, the dude charges in with his guards, and orders the knight to drop his sword and give up right away. Randolph pushes the guys back. Seeing this, the old dude confirms it's definitely necromancy. The young guy's all confused, wondering what's happening to him, and starts questioning what Karnak did to his body. Back in the arena, the boy faces his opponent with a confident grin, and decides he can't let him get carried away. Randolph's getting more and more swallowed by the darkness. One of the knights mentions the young guy seems hit by necromancy, and the dude explains he's probably a newbie at that magic stuff. Soon after, the guy starts yelling in pain, to the point where tears are streaming down his face. But before he keeps suffering, a bunch of spears get thrown at him, and just like that, the dark magic poofs away. Seeing the enemies down, the old dude asks for priests to be sent to the Deventor house to check things out. After that, he turns to the crowd and says Randolph brought sin to the sacred arena, and his nasty act mocked the goddess. So, he declares Karnak of the Jesterard house the winner of the duel. At the Deventor place, someone reports they found blankets and clothes with necromancy symbols on them. Randolph's sister tries to explain, saying they bought those from a merchant, but one of the guys isn't buying it and asks about the weird vial he found in the knight's room. And the girl says it's just a potion for hair growth she got from the cellar. The young guy says all this is solid proof of necromancy, and according to their rules, the girl will have to be questioned. A few days later, a massive feast goes down at the Jesterard house, but only the main dude and his buddy are chowing down. Barroth asks how his master pulled off that epic trick, and the young guy says he was dead set on winning. A month ago, the young dude was curious if his buddy was just planning to use necromancy. Karnak, in turn, says if he uses his magic, he'll get caught, but if he loses the duel, he's toast anyway, and says their best shot is to make Randolph use it. Barroth's curious about what his buddy's talking about, and he explains he'll make it look like his opponent's using it. After that, he says it won't be too hard to fool the priests from a distance, and when they're fighting, it'll be tough to tell who used the magic. The main dude says he uses super powerful and advanced necromancy, making sure they never suspect him, but there's still a snag, which is his opponent's blood for this plan to work. Barroth grins, saying he's got an idea. Back in the present, Karnak mentions those training sessions were the worst, and his buddy tells him to look at where his work got him. Soon after, they keep chatting about how no one even suspects them, as they're only checking out the Deventor house. After a bit, in the church, the priest asks his buddy if they've wrapped up the investigation into the dark power, and the guy who judged the duel says it wasn't the work of a rookie necromancer, because those elements in that vial were perfectly in sync, and no doubt, it was a sign of what the goddess warned them about. Meanwhile, Karnak's grinning, thinking they got a bit lucky. The two then start celebrating and say now they just gotta enjoy life. After that, cruising down the hallway, Barroth's all, "Yo, more peeps are gonna be eyeing that copper mine," and his buddy's like, "Gotta level up my necromancy game." The young dude's all, "What if the church finds out though?" Karnak just grins, "Nah, they won't catch me. I'm just dabbling in necromancy research." Fast forward 3 months, and our hero's chilling at home, magic circle vibes all around. He's trying hard to keep his focus, like when you're trying not to laugh in class. It's a ritual to invite those spooky energies hanging around him. Then, he's got to filter out the bad vibes, leaving only the good stuff. Boom! A red flame pops up in his hands. Karnak's grinning, knowing he's nailed chaos magic. Later, Barroth's sparring with some dude, thinking it's the only way to become a legit knight for the Jesterard house. But the soldier's skills are as bad as a Wi-Fi signal in a basement, especially that guy Gilliman. Before they go on, the knight's like, "Hold up, let's call it a day," and suggests they pick it up another time. Burrow's all, "Thanks for the training," and the dude's like, "Nah, you should be training me." Then he says Barroth's gonna be the strongest knight in no time. After that, he invites Barroth for drinks with the crew, but Barroth's like, Nah, Karnax got me on a mission. Later, the boy walks into a room with a tray of food and almost gets zapped by a magic blast from his buddy. Karnax annoyed, dude, knock next time. Barros like, that didn't look like necromancy. The hero's like, more like mana. And the boy's like, master didn't ditch dark magic. There are 4 ways to level up human powers in this world. Being a battle knight or a mana mage, plus the divine magic of a cleric. And finally, necromancy, the death manipulation power. This epic power lets the body soak up the right aura. When it's maxed out, the person becomes an arcanity. The arcanity boosts the vessel and soul with all that power. A shaped soul can't be tweaked by anyone else. Right after, the hero spills that he just reworked his arcanity and explains that necromancy is seen as dirty magic because it uses sketchy energy, making it smell like a gym sock. But he compares it to food that's made the same way, saying he cleaned up the power for a fresher look. All he had to do was filter out the bad vibes and turn it into magic. Barros like, seems like regular magic to me. Then the hero's all, with these skills, I can pass as a regular mage. And jokes, with great power comes great drama. The boy explains he just needs enough power to guard his turf. Later, some wolves get taken out near the copper mine by Jestrad knights. While chatting about it, a creature's lurking in the shadows. Then a massive beast charges at one of the dudes. But before it can do anything, Baroth jumps in to save the day. Gilliman's like, good thing we got a knight like you here. The young dude's like, weird being called that, just got knighted. Then he asks if those beasts have been a big hassle. And his buddy's like, yeah, they're twice as strong. Rumors are true. The young dude's curious about those rumors. 7 goddesses drop the Oracle of Doom on the church, opening a void, swallowing all light. The beasts will power up, and the dead will rise to stomp on the tainted ground. Then the Death King will show up, soaking the world in blood and tears. Soon after, demonic beasts popped up everywhere, along with a wave of necromancers causing chaos. The churches teamed up to fight evil under the goddess's shield. Baroth's like, don't remember any oracle before, why is the story always changing? And his buddy's like, it's annoying not knowing what's up. Then the boy's all, does Master think it's connected to him? And the hero's like, timeline's all messed up, cause the oracle came way before his time rewind spell. Baroth's curious if that means the world's about to hit the fan. Karnax all, dude, I have no clue who this Lord of Death is, but wrecking the world? Not a piece of cake. The boy's like, chill, there are heroes here, they've got this. And the main guy's all, let's just vibe and trust. Then he's like, let's just kick back in this mansion and live the dream. A week zooms by, and this kid shows up from the Church of Radiel, asking Jestrad for a hand with some epic quest. The kid spills that a necromancer's on the loose in Jestrad and needs a local guide because the dude's hiding in the woods. Barrow's thinking, no way the boss says yes to this. But the main guy's grinning, like, how can I say no to a goddess mission? Then he's like, I'll hook you up with a guide, no prob. After the church dude bounces, Karnak's like, perfect chance to see what's up, and his buddy's all, what's the plan, bro? With a smirk, the main guy's like, let's find those necromancers and wreck them first. Later that night, a dude's sprinting through the forest. He's ticked because the church peeps are messing with his scheme, and he's sweating about making it out alive. But then, bam, knights show up in his face. Seeing them, the dude's like, oh snap, it's a trap. The guards circle him, saying they're done with his nonsense. Then the dude's all, time to unleash my dark magic. And he goes all out on the knights. From a distance, the main guy and his buddy are watching the chaos. Barroth's like, this necromancer's got 0 skills. Then they see the dudes running again. Karnak's like, let's jump in before he bails. After a wild chase, the necromancer hides in a cave, sensing someone nearby. But surprise, the boys are already there, waiting. Karnak's grinning, good choice. We hid here once too. The dude's like, who are you guys? And the main guy's like, we're the ones here to take you down. The dude's thinking, how dare these kids mess with me? Then he unleashes his dark minions and tries to make a run for it. Baroth's like, what now? We can't slice these ghostly dudes. The main guy's like, step back, time to test my chaos magic. Outside, the dude's still running, thinking he's bought some time. But then, boom, the cave explodes, souls flying everywhere. Karnak's like, why the rush, dude? Then he uses his powers and wipes out all the ghostly minions. The necromancer's like, are you a wizard? Inside, he's freaking out because these kids are way tougher than he thought, and he's thinking he might actually get caught. So he tries his necromancy again, summoning a demon. Karnak's like, dude doesn't even know his own summons names. The dude's grinning, thinking the kids are scared now. Even from a distance, the boy's like, oh, no he didn't. Then the necromancer's like, go my demon. But the main guy locks eyes with the creature and says, kneel. And the creature's like, yes, sir, and kneels. The dude's all, wait, are you a necromancer? Then Karnak steps on the demon's head, like, you're dense, bro, and grins, I don't even know, man. Then a giant magic hand appears above the dude. The boy's like, this is my jam, and he grabs the dude. Later, the necromancer's on the ground, blue flames everywhere. The main guy's like, get up, and the dude's like, yes, master. Karnak's like, how'd you learn necromancy? And the dude's like, total accident. Then he tells how one night he was whining in an alley when darkness wrapped him up. A mysterious power took over, and he thought it was the apocalyptic dust from the oracle's prophecy. With these skills, the young dude totally wiped out those who messed with him before. Hearing this, the main guy figures out the dude was just a total fail, and his buddy suggests using mind tricks to make the necromancer off himself with his own dagger. Then, the boy finishes the guy off. But instead of bouncing, he decides to snag the necromantic power from the body, and Baroth's like, shouldn't you skip that? It might mess you up. Karnak's it's all we got left, and the trackers are coming soon, so I'll just take a smidge to keep it low-key. But then, the boy starts feeling super weird. His buddy's like, you good? And the main dude's like, nah, something's off. A few days later, a shield's set up in a room at the Jestard mansion. Baroth's curious about what his pals got that's so serious it needs a soundproof barrier. Karnak's like, checked out that necromantic power from the other night, and his sidekick's like, what'd you find? The young dude's like, turns out it was me all along. Baroth's like, thought. The timeline switched up. Then, the main guy spills that the power's properties match his own. The boy remembers when their souls didn't vibe with their bodies, and he says that's why they yanked their souls out to go back to their OG state, but they left the necromantic power behind. Karnak explains that this turned him into a big deal in both the physical and spiritual worlds. The boy starts thinking his necromantic power's in his soul, not his body. Then, he says when his soul time traveled, his power tagged along, but some got left behind. Baroth's like, so, your magic came with us. And the main dude's like, looks like my power's scattered everywhere. The knight facepalms, saying they're in deep trouble now. Then he asks if his buddy can just grab his power back, and the boy's all sarcastic. Yeah, no. Karnak's like, why'd I think this world could fix it? Better to just nuke it. Baroth's like, so, what's the plan now? The young dude's like, gotta check out another apocalyptic darkness. A few hours later, they're on the road, and one of them's like, feels like an adventure. The knight's stoked they're not being chased anymore. No bandits to worry about, and his buddy's like, we look so chill, no one's gonna mess with us. Baroth's like, why Dalat City? And his master's like, that's where the necromancer got his powers, so it's the best place to start. Then, the boy's like, got any tracking spells for these dark vibes? Karnak's like, nope, gotta do it old school. And he asks if his buddy remembers their old hangouts. In Dalat City, they stop in front of a building, and the main dude's like, no better place for info than here. Baroth's like, never thought I'd be back, last time we used fake IDs. Karnak's like, things are different now, no need to be adventurers. Then, the boys head inside. After paying, the attendant's like, you guys want info on the apocalyptic darkness. The main dude's like, even the tiniest bit helps. Then, the employee's like, we've had loads of requests, so we gathered some info. The boys are shocked by the mountain of papers. They dive into the paperwork without wasting time, but they get bummed, saying most of it's useless. And it's all just stories that don't help them at all. The attendant's like, should I ditch the junk info? But the young dude's like, nah, no need. Then, he taps his buddy's shoulder, saying they'll chat like this because it's crowded. And he says sometimes gold's hidden in trash, but his buddy's bummed because it'll take forever to sift through it all. Then, out of nowhere, this dude pops up yelling, asking why no one's buying his story. He's all, there's a wicked necromancer in my village. Next thing, he's sprinting to the counter, wanting to file a report. The attendant's like, did you hit up the temple about this? And the guy's like, they didn't believe me either. So the employees all, spill the tea. What's the deets? The guy goes on about this stranger, Cleo, who rolled into town and crashed in some abandoned mansion in the woods. And then, Cleo starts using his good looks to charm everyone. Nobody knows how he got so loaded so fast, but he's throwing mansion parties to win over the villagers. The guy's convinced Cleo's using some weird magic to woo all the village girls. He's even crying, saying his fiancé's fallen for Cleo too. A bunch of dudes show up, wondering why anyone would use dark magic when they're already rich, saying it's just spoiled brat behavior. They're all, that guy's super stressed. Then, the attendant tells the guy they can't take his case, suggests he hire an adventurer himself. The guy storms off, yelling they'll regret it. After he leaves, everyone's gossiping, saying he's just jelly. Karnak's like, nothing useful here, and his buddy's all, let's hit up a restaurant. As they're leaving, the employee's like, I'll keep you posted if anything new pops up. Outside, Baroth realizes his master's got suspicions about this Cleo dude. The main guy's like, there's only one reason he's after those country girls. He's hunting for virgin souls. Later, they roll up to the village the guy mentioned. Karnak busts out one of his skills, reveals a hidden barrier under the city. Even a top priest would struggle to spot it, and it's clear this person knows their stuff. But the main guy's like, could just be a regular necromancer. Then, a kid runs up calling for them. They're shocked to see it's a priest, wondering why he's out here in the sticks. The kid introduces himself as Alias, a top-notch inquisitor. Baroth's like, I'm a knight, and this is my lord from the Gestrad house, and the priest's curious why a noble's here. Karnak explains they heard some weird rumors and wanted to check it out, and the kid asks if he can ask a favor. He's hyped, saying it's also a sacred mission from the goddess. Then, he whispers to them, saying there might be an evil necromancer in the village. The boys are shook, asking where the priest's backup is. The kid explains the church doesn't act without solid proof because of all the fake news they get. Karnak's like, if it were me, I think the church would find these suspicions enough. The priest says he planned to handle it solo from the start, but he noticed the boys have good gear, so they can't be weak. The kid's pumped, saying it'd be awesome to have them tag along, but the boys aren't too thrilled. Then, the main guy uses the messaging system with his buddy, saying he needs to check something and will take him for now. But Baroth's like, what if the priest senses your necromancy? With a sly grin, the necromancer's like, I'll just wipe his memory. Karnak tells the kid it'll be an honor to take on the divine mission. The priest offers to show them the way to the church. At the church, Gloth and Sister Julia welcome them. Hearing the story, they're skeptical, since Cleo's done a lot for the town and another priest didn't find anything. They're all, bummer, you came all this way for nothing. But to avoid more hassle, they invite the travelers to crash there. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Cleo gets the 411 that a new priest is in town to snoop around, and he just wants a heads up if anything sketchy goes down. But the dude's totally annoyed, because problems keep popping up now that his big moment's almost here. Later, the squad gets shown to their digs. Karnak's all, maybe the villagers are under some spell, and the priest's like, guess we gotta check it out ourselves. The main guy's wondering if his buddy's hinting at crashing Cleo's mansion. The dude's like, nah, got a better plan. And they just gotta roll with his plan from now on. At night, Cleo's wandering his mansion and bumps into a maid. The girl asks her boss where he's off to so late. He says he's off to meet his guests and tells her to hit the hay and forget it. She decides to follow orders. Soon after, he grins, saying his spell's working like a charm and humans are kinda weak-minded. As he strolls, he thinks about how it took him 6 months to nail his demon summoning, and finally, it's paying off, even if some issues linger. Then, he runs into 3 intruders in his crib. It's the main crew, who say he won't mind sharing his loot. He's relieved they're just robbers and starts cracking up. Barev's like, what's so funny, dude? Cleo raises his hand to attack and says they're not even worth the trouble, but the boys are shielded. Then, they reveal they're onto him, saying he wasn't even trying to hide being a necromancer. He's bummed he let his guards slip, and figures he's got to deal with them now. So, Cleo calls in his creatures for backup. The priest tells his pals to charge ahead, and the young crew takes out the monsters in their way. Karnak busts out a magic arrow move, taking down more baddies. The necromancer's ticked, he has to use his secret power, and opens a portal, summoning a beast from the underworld. A massive demon knight shows up. Cleo's grinning, saying they can't beat that. Quickly, the priest uses a power to zap the evil away. Everyone's shook to see it was a summoning reversal. A light pops up under the summoned creatures, making them vanish. The boy says he already knew the enemy's battle tricks. Seeing this, the necromancer admits this foe's tougher than any he's faced before. Soon after, he switches it up, saying no need to hide anymore. His clothes start ripping. The dude's look totally changes, turning into a giant red monster. The priest's spooked, not ready for this, thinking he won't have time for another reversal. Suddenly, the 2 boys charge forward, even with the church guy telling them to chill. With a grin, Baroth gears up to attack, no fear, landing a bunch of hits on the enemy. From a distance, the main guy uses his magic arrow move, nailing a shot to the beast's chest. Thanks to the attacks, Cleo hits the ground. The priest's speechless, just thinking about what he saw, and how those kids seem normal, but their skills were next level. Baroth asks what to do with the enemy, and the boy says he'll handle it. With his staff, the young guy starts doing something to the necromancer's body. Dark magic starts oozing out. The priest realizes it's some apocalyptic darkness, and now they just need to collect. But before he can finish, he gets a neck chop. Karnak says it's go time. Right after, the main guy mentions that the enemy was already a necromancer and soaked up the apocalyptic darkness in the chaos. Baroth wonders if his master senses anything else, and he says the dude was part of the cultists serving Tesranak. The knight's puzzled about who Tesranak is, and his buddy explains he's the god of death. Hearing this, the boy's confused, because he thought his lord had that gig. Then, he says it's not just a title anyone can have, and Karnak's like, not sure what to do about it. Alright, so here's the deal. Tesranak, the big bad boss of the underworld, is basically the Death Squad's mascot. People think he's gonna hit the reset button on the world, making it all shiny and new through. You guessed it, death. Baroth's like, yo, this death dude's causing all the chaos, and his buddy's like, yeah, that's all I got from it. Then Karnak drops a bomb, saying he found out something else. Turns out, if he can snag some cleric power, handling chaos magic becomes a breeze. He even offered to help just to see how divine magic ticks, doubling his magic mojo. Now he's like a fourth circle wizard. Then the dude's like, hey, let's raid the church's piggy bank while we're at it. Later, they decide to wake up the priest. Next morning, Alias is all red-faced for snoozing on the job. Our hero's like, with the spell gone, folks are kind of freaked, but the priest's chill, saying the church has got their backs and the villagers will bounce back soon. Right after, the young dude's like, where to next? And Karnak's like, we're crashing in Della City for a bit. They say bye to the priest, who's thinking, these guys aren't your average Joes, and he's gonna keep tabs on them when he's back at the church. That night, in a sketchy house near Della City, some dude's yelling about drowning. He spills he's a necromancer and already blabbed all he knows about dark magic. The hero's done listening and orders him back in the bucket. As the guy's getting dunked, the boy's like, only holy water can zap that bad energy. Later, Karnak's like, we're making progress, and his buddy's like, I'll send the church the 411 as usual. Bareth's surprise, Alias asked for their help. The young dude's like, church is probably short-staffed, and they might have called us after that Gelpa village drama. Then he spills that the church only knows his fam got wiped by a necromancer, so they picked him for the gig. Bareth's like, can we go home now? And his boss is like, nope. The knight's bummed, thinking his boss wants to hoard everything, and Karnak's like, all we can do is seal the dark leaks. Then he says he's on a mission to figure out how these dark paths pop up. Bareth's like, that's gonna take ages, and boom, a letter shows up. The boys see it's from the Hatova church. Karnak's like, Alias wants a meetup, and he'll spill the beans when we get there. At the Fiatova temple, the priest greets them. Then he introduces his crew. A dude named Rilton's like, nice to meet ya. A woman named Alan says she's with the Adventurers Guild. Karnak uses the messaging system to ask his buddy if that's the woman who got her battle aura at 20, and he's like, yep. And the dude's a top-tier mage. Mages and battle aura folks are ranked by their skills. The higher the mage's circle, the cooler their magic, while 10th circle archmages are basically superhumans. Battle aura peeps are ranked by colors red, blue, purple, and silver. Golden knights are almost immortal, like the 4 great kings. Rilton and Alan are already red tier, so they're more than ready for the job. Then the hero remembers his buddy never got the hang of battle aura before. The boy tells his new pals it's awesome to meet them, and he's heard epic stuff about them. Alan's like, I've heard stories about you guys too. Curious how you took down so many necromancers so fast. But before the chit-chat goes on, Alias asks everyone to sit, because he's about to drop why he called them. Then he explains that not long ago, his church got tangled in some drama in Triss City, and it's still causing headaches. This city's smack dab between the kingdoms of Eustil and Tapum, so it's always in the middle of some epic turf war. After ages of beef, both kingdoms decided to play matchmaker with their nobles, creating the Tryst House. But then, boom, a new drama. The city's prime real estate for trade, so it turned into a wild west with no real boss, just a bunch of shady gangs. Tryst went down the drain, and the 2 biggest crime families took over. They split the city in half and started a never-ending battle to see who's the real MVP. This epic showdown dragged on for decades. Then, dark magic showed up, giving the gangs a major power-up, and the flat house went full-on beast mode. The victims ran to snitch to the church. The church confirmed necromancy was in the mix, so they swooped in and handed the W to the Ranfelts. Karnak's all looks like it's over, but the priest's like, nah, we think the Ranfelts are dabbling in necromancy too. Alan's like, how'd the church miss that? And the boy's like, it's hard to spot leftover spooky vibes. Bareth's jaw drops as everyone at the table loses it over the news. Then, his master's like, those jerks ditched their humanity. The knights worry Hatova's rep is on the line and thinks they should keep things on the down low. They're all curious why the priest hit them up instead of his own crew. Alias spills the tea that there's a snitch in the church. Their top suspect, a high-ranking priest named Shutlaf, who's been helping the Ranfelts. Karnak's like, you didn't tell anyone, right? And the boy's like, nope, I've got the authority and I'll report back when we're done. He adds they need solid proof of necromancy. Alan's like, this mission's risky. The whole city might turn on us. But the priests chill, saying they can handle whatever comes their way. In the Ranfelt mansion's basement, screams echo. People are chained to the walls. A guy's like, it's been ages since the church sent us here. A young dude tells his buddy they'll probably send someone soon. Father Shutlaf grins, saying the sacrifices are rolling in without any hassle. Then, he whips out some dark magic on his captives. His buddy's like, won't that mess you up? The young guy's like, yeah, but it's worth it. He splits the energy sphere in 2, claiming the goddess's protection. He's hoping the church sends some real competition this time, cause then he'll have more to gain. Eventually, the squad rolls into Tryst, and it's a total dump. Alias points out the crime scene vibes, explaining why it's so trashed. Out of nowhere, a dagger flies at them. They dodge it, but Rilton's bag gets hit. Coins spill everywhere. A bunch of kids swoop in, snatching all the cash. The mage is fuming while Bareth's like, yep, this is definitely the lawless city of sin. Rilton's wondering how he'll chill at an inn in this chaos, but Alias has already sorted a spot for them. Everyone's shook when they see the place the priest scored. It's the Flad property he helped wreck. They gather at a table, and someone's like, we're not making excuses for our family's mess-ups, and anyone using necromancy deserves what's coming. That's Sildera, head of the Flad house, refusing to let the Ranfelts get away with their necromancy. The priest agrees, saying the church won't just watch Triss crumble. He hopes Sildera will team up with them to take down the Ranfelts, and she's like, what's the plan? Cause the Ranfelt house has beefed up security, only letting high-rank folks near the mansion. Alias reveals they're planning to ambush the Ranfelt property. Riltane's all, yo, you just gonna barge in? And his buddy's like, trust me, it'll work, no cap. Sildera is saying the guards aren't exactly giants, but they have zero clue about their necromancers, and the priest's all, no sweat, we got this. Cause his crew's basically pros at taking down necromancers. Night falls, and the mansion's crawling with guards. Meanwhile, a squad of hooded peeps is scheming behind the walls. Someone lights a Molotov cocktail, and one of them's all, tonight, we're avenging the Flat house, bet. Then, they start chucking bottles over the wall. The guards are like, what's going on out there? All the security's eyes are glued to the outside attacks. The hero's squad sneaks in behind the guards, no sweat. Karnak's like, Flad forces are on point, and Alias is sniffing out necromancy from the mansion. Then, a bunch of knights show up to block the squad's path. Rilting's all, let me introduce myself, and he starts throwing fireballs at the baddies. Next, he traps them in a net of magical chains. The knights are like, how's this dude casting so fast? But they still stand their ground, because there's only 5 of them. But before they can act, Aelin charges in with her sword, slicing through enemies with a grin on her face. From a distance, Bareth's like, that's not how you do it. His buddy claps back, dude, you don't even have a battle aura. Then some guards sneak up behind the boys and the knight's like, time to warm up. And with one swing, he sends them flying. The hero joins in with his magical arrows, nailing enemies with perfect shots to the chest. The boys finally take down all the guards, and just stand there, watching Alias fight, wondering where a cleric picked up those moves. After a bit, the priest notices they're retreating and says, looks like that's all their forces. But Alan's like, we haven't seen any necromancers yet, and they're probably inside, thinking they've got the home field advantage. So, the squad enters the house, but it's eerily chill. A voice booms, looks like our guests have arrived. And a massive spiritual reaper shows up with its crew, saying the church must be famous for bringing an aura user and a mage. But it's all pointless against the arcane darkness. Instead of freaking out, the squad's hyped, because these goons are proof the house is into necromancy. The hero texts his buddy, those 3 hooded dudes gotta be worth at least 10. One enemy's ticked seeing them laugh, and sends his reaper to drain their life force. Alias uses his staff's magic, saying the goddess's light will judge all that's wicked, stalling the creature. The hooded ones freak out seeing a priest in the mix. Then, Alan charges, slicing the reaper in 2, and then goes after her enemies. But before anything happens, their heads just pop. The priest's like, we needed them alive, Elaine. But Alan's all, wasn't me. Then, the whole mansion starts morphing, like it's alive or something. Everyone's like, how are they messing with space itself? A voice chimes in, now you're part of my collection. Then, someone steps out of all that flesh. Alias instantly knows the voice, had a hunch all along. Shutlaugh's like, why so shocked, priest? You knew it was me. The boy's like, I hoped I was wrong. How can a servant of the goddess chase dark power? Alan and his buddy try to find a way out, but the walls are too tough to slice. Soon, Alias realizes the darkness is sapping his powers, and he unleashes a wave of energy. But his divine magic's not cutting it. Karnak's thinking how the place is sucking up divine power, boosting necromancy. The enemy's like, you really thought those guys were the real necromancers. Shutlaugh's all, how's it feel facing this power? Alias. Then, the hero messages his buddy to stay sharp, cause one wrong move, and it's game over. Then, he's all, dude, never seen anything like this before, and says he can only hit back with his chaos, magic, and whatever necromancy juice he's got left. Bareth's like, how did a priest from the boonies pull this off? Shutlaugh's all, no way out, suckers. Then, something starts popping up in that flesh pile. A squad of golems rolls up, surrounding the crew. The baddie's like, meet my necromantic puppets. Then, those creeps start moving in. But Alias pops a shield just in time to save the day. Still, the creatures start cracking it like it's a cheap phone screen. The cleric's like, I'm running on fumes here, and Rilting's like, just give me 1 more minute. Then, the kid starts prepping a spell. But before he can do squat, a golem busts through the shield, yeeting the mages away. Shutlaugh's like, toss them in the basement with the other sacrifices. Alan jumps in, smacking one of the beasts, but she's shook when her hit doesn't even leave a dent. The baddie makes his minion grab her, saying the other two are useless, but she's the real prize. The useless duo? Yeah, that's our hero and his buddy. While getting squished, Shut laughs like, this girl's got a soul made of gold. Before she gets wrecked, Barrow slices the golem's arm to free Aline. Then, he smacks the creature right in the face. The girl's like, how'd you take down a golem without an aura? The boys all. The monster's weak spot is where its magic flow's missing, but it's a slippery sucker, always moving around. Then, Barrow's thinking if he burns out his strength, he's toast. Karnak's realizing his necromancy's flopping hard, and he's throwing his dark magic into this mist that's the magic source, but he can't get a grip on his necromancy. Then, he's like, gotta find another way or we're toast. And he's wondering how this basic necromancer knows stuff he doesn't, making him think there's more to this story. Karnak decides to check if he's onto something. Barrow keeps smashing those golems. With his master by his side, Shut laughs like, who are these pests wrecking my minions? And he's all, guess I underestimated these two. Then he's like, time for plan B. These golems are trash. Summoning a spirit of blue flames. Quickly, the boys pop his shield, and Aylin's like, how they dodge that so fast? Watching the girl run, the boys joke she's slower than a snail on a lazy day. The woman tries to hit the creature, but it's like punching air. Then, the monster's like, my turn, burning the girl's arms, making her scream. Then, it grabs Aylin. But before it can do anything, the hero jumps in. Realizing his hunch was spot on, Shutlaf sees his summoning fading away, and he's like, what did you do, kid? Karnak's like, put my necromantic barrier over yours, and roasts him, calling him a noob. The priest's like, don't rush, young one. Then, he summons his undead. Barroth's curious how he pulled that off, and his buddy's like, my barrier can't block basic necromancy. As the creatures close in, the knight's like, these don't look so basic. Then, they start brawling, and Barroth's like, this could go all night, and the hero's like, we bounce as soon as we see an opening. The boy uses a skill to wipe out the undead around him. Shut laughs grinning, saying the hero's got some cheap tricks, but he's no match for his epic power. Then, he summons the demon Gehenna, and boom, a massive beast shows up. The dark creature's like, what's your wish, master? Shutlaf orders it to take out the guys and bring the girl to him. But the demon's like, can't find them, and the hero's like, can't believe he fell for that illusion. The dude's like, when did you make that illusion? And the hero's like, when I busted your barrier. Then, the crew vanishes, leaving Shutlaf fuming for getting played. Far away, Karnak tells his buddy the enemy bought the Mirage because he was too busy controlling his summoning from afar. Barrett's all, yo, heading back to Flad's and no-go right now. And his master's like, chill. The Ranfelds probably already sent their spy squad there. Then, boom, Alan's raging, finding out her buddy's a necromancer. Plot twist. Our hero's caught off guard, realizing she overheard, and awkwardly asks, how you feeling? She snaps back, quit pretending you care. And where even are we? Karnak's like, we bailed from the city to dodge the search squad. Also, we gotta patch you up, and she's all, wait, you're not gonna off me, right? The dude's like, why would we? We're just trying to live crime-free, you know? Alan's suddenly like, I can't feel my hands. My life's ruined. Tears streaming. She begs them to just end it. Barroth's like, hey, can't we take her to a cleric? But his master's like, nah, divine spells can't beat nature. The boys realize there's only one way out. She wonders if necromancy can fix her arms. And the hero's like, yeah, but it'll make you my servant. She freezes, realizing that's her only shot. Necromancers can soul-bind people, and some adventurers got corrupted after torture. Alin's torn about the offer. Karnak secretly tells Barath he planned this, and Bareth's like, I get how she feels. The hero admits he tried to avoid necromancy, but her situation's dire. She's curious. What happens if I say yes? He explains her soul becomes visible. He can heal her, but betrayal means game over. She thinks it's risky, but kinda like a knight's loyalty oath. Alin decides to roll with it. Karnak checks if she's sure, and she's like, yup, better than never swinging a sword again. He starts the ritual, asking if she'll be his servant, and she's like, yes. He tells her to open her mind and bind to him. Her body starts changing, and her arms heal up fast. Karnak declares she's now his servant. With a big grin, she starts calling him master. Problem solved. Baroth's like, what about Alias and Rilton? The hero's like, Shutlaf's power's wild. We gotta go big with necromancy. They realize they can either rescue their pals or ditch them. Alan's like, duh, we gotta save them. She tells the boys ditching isn't cool. Saving them's the right move. Barroth's like, ends justify the means. They get hyped to use necromancy for the rescue. In the city, some folks get nabbed. A kid's like, what's going on? And a henchman's like, orders to grab someone from outside. Watching from afar, a guy sipping his drink's like, what's the deal here at night? His buddy's like, move it. And the kid's like, who do you think you are bossing me around? The henchman's sword glows, and he's like, didn't want to do this. Then he attacks his buddy, but it's like, not his choice. The guy's mad. Why'd you do that? And he's like, sword's got a mind of its own. Not buying it, the kid attacks him. Other henchmen are like, chill, don't fight each other. Looking beastly, the guy's like, he started it. Everyone freaks and attacks him. The creature's confused, didn't know he changed. But still, he's taken down. From the top of a house, the protagonist flexes his skills, saying he could make a city crumble with just a sprinkle of chaos. Elaine's all like, why are you saying that? And he's like, building an army of the undead. Duh. Cause that's their best shot at taking down Shutlaf. But the dude's got only a few bodies to control, so he figures he needs to make more. The young men start grinning all sneaky, claiming they're doing it to save their pals. The woman thinks Karnak's not as bad as the necromancer rumors, since he's even keeping civilians out of it. On the ground, the bandits are still brawling with each other, and they're all, what the heck is going on? The protagonist's like, we got enough peeps, let's kick off the plan. Right after, he stretches out his hand, commanding his army to rise. And then he casts a spell on those corpses, turning them into undead soldiers. Seeing that, Aylin's like, okay, maybe Karnak's not so nice after all. Then the undead start marching. While the boy's grinning like he won the lottery, the girl's freaking out for letting him be her boss. But before the zombies can keep going, a bunch of flying creatures swoop in, attacking the undead. The protagonist's like, all part of the plan, but Shutlaf's necromancy game is way stronger than he thought, even summoning those beasts. Karnak tells his crew to hustle, cause they'll get caught soon, as those things will figure out the zombies are just illusions. Alin's shocked to learn the undead were fake, and the boy explains he couldn't summon that many so fast with his current level. After hearing that, the woman's thrilled, saying her master picked the best path. In his lair, Shutlaf's like, those zombies are nothing compared to my creatures, but he starts wondering where those kids are. Suddenly, the group pops up behind him, asking why he never mentioned that cave before. The man's all surprised, not getting how they got there. Karnak reminds the enemy he said they'd meet again. Then, the woman notices her buddies are there. The two look like they're about to be sacrifices. Shutlaf asks if the zombies were just a distraction. A bunch of creatures show up, and the man says he'll make the boy regret crawling there. The monsters charge at the group. Baroth and his buddy jump into the fight, while Karnak decides to summon his soul squad, bringing them straight from purgatory. And then a bunch of souls show up to help out, taking down several undead. The boys use that backup to fight more chill, so it doesn't take long for all the monsters to get wrecked. Shutlaf's like, how's this even possible? And in a panic move, he decides to summon his demon for backup. Baroth's like, this guy doesn't even look tired. The protagonist tells his enemy to get more creative, cause he's used that trick before. Some spells pop up around the huge demon, who's like, what's going on? The young man explains it's a summoning reversal spell. The creature's fuming, saying the boy won't ditch him that easily and he can just rip that spell apart. A massive explosion goes off, and the demon asks his operator what he wants. Shutlaf, in turn, asks him to wipe out those guys and bring the woman to him. The monster then says he'll honor their deal. Aylin's like, this pressure is insane. Karnak says there's going to be a change of plans and orders his crew to go fight. Even though they're hesitant, the two decide to follow their master's orders. But their hits don't do squat. The demon gets ready to counterattack and says those humans are pathetic pests. The two barely dodge that powerful attack. Karnak asks if the creature enjoyed that, and then a bunch of fireballs zoom towards the creature. But the demon manages to dispel that move. Baroth's like, I could have easily beaten that enemy if I had a battle aura. Hearing that, the protagonist says they can still try something, and his buddy instantly gets what he's aiming for. Soon after, Karnak starts a ritual on his servant, asking him to open his mind and accept his master's command. The knight then takes control of Alin's body, who doesn't even flinch knowing this would happen. After that, the boy charges, apologizing to his buddy because he's borrowing her body for a bit. The demon's like, Baroth's not even an aura user. How's he going to use someone else's aura? Suddenly, the boy's right in front of the monster, landing a direct hit on it. The knight explains that using others' battle aura is his jam. The creature figures out its opponent's aiming right for its weak spot. Then, the girl's sword starts glowing blue, and she gets it. She leveled up to the blue layer just because her buddy was using her body. Baroth steps up, saying this will make the fight a bit easier for him. The boy then starts slicing up the devil, and he's grinning the whole time. The creature's like, whoa, that's wild, and tries to hit the young dude, but he dodges like a ninja. The knight's all, is that all you got? Feeling the heat, the creature's like, you're a monster. But it warns him not to think victory's in the bag. Then it charges at the hero, saying it just needs to smash the source of it all. Boom, a big explosion goes off, and the creature's laughing, asking if the human was ready for that. But Karnak's like, what are you even doing? Suddenly, a bunch of boy clones pop up everywhere, and he asks if the monster really thought he didn't see through its lame plan. The demon then realizes it was all a trick. Then, Baroth sneaks up from behind the enemy, slicing it up without it even knowing what hit it. cause it blew almost all its mana, breaking the summoning reversal spell. The monster's like, how did I lose to these kids? Then, a portal opens under it, and before bouncing, it says it'll be back, and the boy's first on its hit list. Karnak's like, where do you think you're going? And won't let it escape. So, he uses magic to freeze the demon. The creature's like, my mana's going haywire. Bubbles start popping up all over it, and then, boom, another huge explosion. The hero's clones vanish. With the fight over, Baroth splits from Alan. The boy tells his crew there's just one baddie left. Shutlaf takes a deep breath and throws in the towel, and says he'll spill everything. But the necromancer's like, dude, you don't get it. Cause it's way easier to grill him after turning him into a zombie. Karnak asks his buddy if there's any reason to keep the guy alive, and she's like, nope. Then, the boy casts a spell, which takes out Shutlaf before he can even blink. With the boy's body, the young man says it's time to get down to business. A green orb floats over the body. The hero says that energy's like 30 people, and his buddy realizes it's enough to head home. Pumped about that, Baroth suggests hitting some taverns on the way back. But Alan's like, we can't just ditch our friends here. After a bit, the two wake up and are shocked to find out the three of them took down Shutlaf. Karnak's like, we got lucky, and makes up a story about one of the enemy's pals turning on him with an undead army and probably draining his necromancer powers. The boy also says he didn't waste time teaming up with Aelin. Alias is like, looks like the goddess had our backs, and the hero mentions they didn't touch the enemy's body, so they can do the purification ritual. The priest then does his thing with his staff. He says the apocalyptic darkness was almost 10 times more than a mid-level necromancer's. Baroth uses the messaging system to ask his master why there's still necromancy leftovers in the body, thinking he got it all, and his buddy says taking it all would be super sus. Alias says with the disappearance, the city will chill soon. Outside, the clerics surprise Alan's becoming a knight of the Gestured House. He asks why she's doing it. She explains that after last night, she knows Karnak's someone she can totally trust. The hero tells the priest they'll head back to his mansion for her official initiation. Then, they say their goodbyes, but before leaving, the boy tells Alias they'll definitely meet again. At the Gestured House, Flyd greets his lord with a smile. The young man says it's awesome to see everyone after being gone so long. Then, the butler welcomes his master and is curious about how the mission went, but he gets distracted when he sees Alain. The mansion crew thinks she's there to woo their boss. LOL. Our hero's like, meet the new knight of the Gestured Squad. Fly tells the kid, just cause we're near a war zone doesn't mean anyone can be a knight, bro. The lady whips out her sword, and the butler's like, whoa, she's got that battle vibe. She swings her sword, and bam, hits a tree in her path, slicing it clean in two. She grins, I think we're gonna be besties. Fast forward a few weeks, Alin's training with the knights. The dudes notice their buddies' fighting skills are kinda meh, and they get that aura users are on a whole different level. Then, she totally disarms her opponent. The guy's like, you're strong. And she's like, you did awesome too. After the guys bounce, someone sneaks up, thanking her for training with the knights. It's Baroth, asking if she can train with him too. Soon, they're battling it out. The guy's like, your aura game needs work. Then he says she should focus her attacks better. Alan's thinking, easier said than done, dude. Then she asks her buddy to take control again, thinking it'll help her adapt faster. Baroth's like, let's not overdo it. Last time the host went bonkers. And he says she needs to help him unlock his battle aura that afternoon. In his room, the hero's puzzled over something. Specifically, how Shutlaf mixed necromancy with divine magic. He gets frustrated because he can't crack it, but decides to chill on it, needing to seal the darkness breach. He figures he just needs to make a sentinel to explore the risky space-time zone. For that, he's got to channel the darkness into threads, nailing the manipulation without a hitch. Soon, that energy turns into something like an eye. He's stoked, because his eye of darkness is done. At night, near the Gestured Mansion, Karnak asks why Baroth hasn't unlocked his battle aura yet, despite being a beast in battle. The knight's like, that was before we time traveled, and I miss when my master was the necromancer lord. The lady's shocked to hear that, and she wonders if those two are behind everything going down. Then she thinks about how she knew they weren't just a noble and a regular knight, but didn't expect them to be world rulers, making her wonder how she got tangled up with these two. Then she's curious why they hit up Deventor territory to activate the Eye of Darkness, and the boy explains they'd be busted for necromancy in Gestrad land. The young guy's ticked, saying Deventor deserves his misery for wrecking his home. With the moon almost out, they know it's go time. The hero summons his Eye of Darkness. Alan asks what he's going to do with it, and the guy explains he's sending it to the space-time dimension to find a way to seal the portal. Right after, Karnak launches his eye. It zooms up, and the girl notes it was quieter than expected, but the hero explains it didn't open the dimension, just peeking inside. The necromancer turns to his crew, warning them he's diving into infinity, and it'll knock him out. Then the boy shuts his eyes, reaching the space-time dimension. Karnak scopes the scene, and spots a tree nearby. The young guy's like, found it, the astral void tree, my true arcane form. Then a fruit drops from the tree, making the hero realize that's how the doomsday darkness spreads and he just needs to stop it. But he wonders where his power core is. Then he spots a purple glow on the trunk, thinking it might be it. But he'll only know more when he gets closer. Then a voice orders him to back off. Karnak's brain is doing somersaults, trying to figure out what's going down. This mysterious voice is all, yo, this place ain't for those who are gonna vanish. Then the tree's like, I'm death and destruction. Deal with it. Suddenly, that purple glow's going bonkers and our hero's like, what on earth is happening? And then it hits him. This power is some next level apocalyptic darkness. The tree drops the name Tesranak and Karnak's jaw hits the floor. Next thing, the tree's all, get back to where you came from, mortal. Boom, it zaps the eye the kid was using. Like, poof. Back in the real world, Baroth and his buddy are yelling for their master, who's just chilling on the ground. Our hero wakes up, all confused, like, what just happened? The knight's like, dude, you totally collapsed. Did your buddy's plan flop? But the kid's not having it. He's like, what's the name of that god those cultists are into? Alan's like, Tesranak, god of death and darkness. Duh. Karnak's all, that god was in that dimension, and Baroth's mind is blown. Like, whoa. Those cultists were praying to a real deal. But the kid's like, nah, can't be true. Meanwhile, three peeps are having a powwow. One's like, there's a ruckus in the sanctuary. His buddy's like, how's that even possible? It's a sanctuary, not a playground. A lady's like, this is weird, we gotta keep our eyes peeled. Then, ding dong, someone rings a bell. A maid rushes in, ready to serve. It's that lady from before, Elazar, a royal mage from one of the big three empires. At the Gestrod mansion, our heroes all, I can't figure out how to seal this breach. He's tried a million times, but it's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. Karnak's like, all I know is it's tied to Testranak's followers, but where are they hiding? He starts thinking maybe the baddies are using the tree to learn magic tricks, and he's like, if that's true, we're in deep trouble. Cause messing with the tree means their power's so epic, it can mess with space and time even in far-off places. And if they can do that, they're basically OP, even more than when he was the necromancer lord. Alan's like, why don't you just own your power like Tesranak? The kid's like, that's a solid theory. Baroth's like, if that's true, you basically made a god, and the kid's like, chill, we're just brainstorming here. Then they get all bummed out because they gotta check out a bigwig from the Church of the God of Darkness. But Baroth's like, our usual tricks won't cut it. We gotta join the King's Order. The King's Order is like a super squad just for hunting down the Church of the God of Darkness. After the Chaos era, the Church of Darkness went wild, causing chaos everywhere. With the nobles in cahoots with the baddies, it got harder for the Church of the Seven Goddesses to fight back solo. So, they made the King's Order to handle it. Order members get inspector-level power to grill and even take out anyone they think is a cultist, no matter who they are. They only take requests through referrals. And even then, it's like getting into an exclusive club. Our hero's like, how do we join this task force when we don't even know anyone? Alan's like, we could just apply. Easy peasy. The two get all hyped, and Karnak's like, pack your bags, we're out of here. Back at the mansion, Flyde's all teary-eyed because his master bounced again without a heads-up. In Delit City, Baroth's like, can we just leave like that? And his buddy's like, when we get back, I'm gonna get a lecture on how a lord shouldn't ditch his post. Then someone rolls up, apologizing for the wait. The boys are all pumped, like, no worries. They thank the person for making time for them. It's Alias, who's like, always a pleasure to see you guys. The night before, Karnak's like, I'm gonna ask the priest for a reference. But she's like, remember, clerics are needed to catch a necromancer. After that, she spills the tea that the King's Order needs clerics from the Church of the Seven Goddesses, so new peeps gotta be recommended by the church, and Alias is a first-level inquisitor who can hook others up. The boys all like, how do you know all this? And she goes, the priest told me, duh, because he was planning to recommend us since the whole shut-laugh drama. Fast forward to now. The cleric's stoked to finally recommend the trio to the King's Order. He then says he's pumped to see them again. The priest hands over the reference letter they asked for and tells them to take it to the King's Order HQ. But he's like, no promises you'll get in, and Karnak's still like, thanks dude. At HQ, there's a squad of knights and mages hanging out. The main dude's like, whoa, everyone's level is way higher than I thought. And Alan's like, I even spotted some aura users. Someone pops up, saying the group's recommendation letter is ready, and they'll take them to the Order's boss. The boys roll into a room and meet Arental, the captain of the King's Order. The guy's like, checked your letter. Y'all are super qualified. And a nod from Alias is solid gold. But, plot twist, it's still not enough to join the Order. Karnak's like, we heard we gotta do some tests as newbies. And Arental's like, yup, to keep cultists out. Then he drops their first mission on them. The squad's shook, because they just got there, and the guy grins, saying everyone's always hustling. With a grin, Arentel welcomes them to the king's order. In the hall, some peeps stop the group. A boy named Tarman says he'll be their field training supervisor. With his pals, Kahlo and Alice, Karnak's like, "Is it always this hectic?" And Tarman's like, "Nah, you just picked a wild day." Barrow surprised the young dude's a mage, and he asks if it's because he's 5th circle with aura users under him. The boy's quick to say he didn't mean any shade. Tarman explains that in this gig, status is part of the skill set because they deal with big shots. Then he says the Order's missions are mostly about info gathering and tracking cultists, and sometimes snatching notable figures for questioning. Alan's like, "That sounds sketchy." And the young guy laughs, saying roughing up cultists is their jam. So, mages with mad skills are better for the missions than aura users. The girl asks if clerics are just as good, and Alice says the Order also keeps the church in check, so priests can't be the boss there. Then Tarman spills more deets about the mission, saying they heard a local noble join the Dark God's church. The suspects count Brelant chilling in the southern part of the Eustil Kingdom, and the mission's to sneak in as adventurers. Once they get solid proof, they gotta punish him for the king. The boy says that's all the intel they got, and the main dude's shocked because they gotta invade without knowing if the target's a cultist. Tarman's like, "That's why the Order's here, to dig up that info." The boys get why the Order's so slammed. In Count Berland's castle, a wild storm's raging, and the man's son is super sick. A hooded figure shows up behind the boy, saying the kid's illness is getting worse and maybe he should think bigger. Brelant tells the figure to chill, because he knows what happens with necromancy, and says his son would turn into a zombie. The hooded figure says they use the dark power for Tesseranak, so death won't be random, but the only end for those who don't embrace the cure. To sway the Count, the figure says his son still has a lot of life, and asks if he thinks this is how life should go. Brelant stays quiet, watching his son, thinking about how the Church of the Seven Goddesses didn't want to help, and all he wants is to give his son another shot at life. Right after, he turns to the mysterious hooded dude, saying he's going to trust Tesseranak. Meanwhile, at this inn, Tarman's spilling the tea on how to gather info without blowing their cover as King's Order peeps. Then, he hands the boys a paper, hinting at a plan, and Barrow's all curious about what's up. The boy spills that it's a wanted poster of a dude who's never been caught, and the knight's like, "Does this guy have anything to do with our case?" Tarman's like, "Nah, but now we're bounty hunters on this dude's trail." So, they split into 3 squads to kick off the mission. The boys start asking around town if anyone's seen the poster dude, while Baroth and his buddy head straight to Brelant's mansion. Tarman tells the Count they heard the fugitives in his turf, and asks if they can count on his backup. The Count's like, "You got it. I don't want some sketchy dude in my backyard either." Then, the young guy stands up, thanks him, and promises no trouble. Outside, Baroth's like, "Are we done here?" His buddy's like, "Yup." And Baroth's curious why they even met the Count. The boy grins, saying they've got all they need and the Count's already onto something. At night, the squad gathers to spill the tea on what they found. Callow's like, "The Count's a widower. His kids is only fam, but the kid's got this incurable thing." Another sketchy bit, the Count's land got super safe overnight, and he's been kicking out the bad guys. Then the boy asks his friend if she heard anything on her way back, and she's like, "When necromancy's in the mix, people go missing." Tarman's like, "I hit up the target's mansion and found something wild. All the windows are waxed up, like they're blocking the sun." Callow's like, "This sounds familiar," and says, "Looks like we're dealing with vampires." At Breland's crib, he and his son are having dinner. The man's like, "You mad at me, kid?" With red eyes and looking way better, the kid's like, "Why would I be? I feel chill for the first time ever." Then, he says humans eat to live, and he just takes what the church gives him. The kid sips his drink, saying his diet and digs changed, but it's better than dying. Breland's thinking how his kid's still the same, realizing the Dark God cult isn't just some heretical squad, they're the new truth. And when Tesseranak shows up with a paradise where life and death vibe together, his kid can live normally. The man's like, "Hang tight, you won't be like this forever." Alan's walking with her buddy, asking if they really gotta do another round of snooping, and she's like, "We need solid proof." And she asks her to hang on a bit longer. Soon after, a young dude rolls up and asks if they're bounty hunters, and the woman's like, "Yep." The dude's like, "The Count found the guy you're after," and she's shook cause the poster dude's not real. At the inn, Tarman's like, "Did Brelant really spill about a fake criminal hideout?" And Alice is like, "He even said the guy crashes there at night." Kalo's like, "Them trying to lure us there at night screams vampires." The main guy's like, "Isn't that bad? If we don't go, the cultists will get sus." And the squad hadn't thought of that. The young dude asks his commander what to do, and he's like, "We gotta walk into the trap." At night, the whole crew meets up in a cabin. Aelin's like, "How tough are these vamps?" And Tarman's like, "Just a bit stronger than humans." So, the girl's all curious about whether older vamps are stronger, and Callow's like, "Nah, finding old vampires in real life is like finding a unicorn." The woman's wondering what happens if an aura user turns vamp, and the dude's like, they'd lose their powers and get weaker. Total bummer. The guy notices the main dude's all jittery and tells him to chill. They're the kingdom's elite squad. No worries. Then, boom, a fireball's heading straight for the cabin. Kaboom, it's toast. But the squad's all good, thanks to Alice, who popped a shield like a pro. A bunch of people show up, already knowing they're with the king's crew. One dude's got a red aura sword, and the girl's like, wait, aura users don't go vamp. Callow spots the guy as Braelen's top knight and is like, why would an aura dude go vamp? Tarman's like, duh, the count's with the cultists, and tells everyone to kneel, but they're just laughing it off. The squad powers up, ready to bring the smack down. They charge at the baddies, and the vamps rush them too, no fear. Callow slices one of the vamps. The vamp's like, that's just a scratch, bro. Alice blasts a spell at them, and they're like, let's get her first. But before they can, Tarman shakes things up. Literally, the ground's quaking, and bam, a golem pops up. The dude's not done. He zaps a vamp with lightning. He's thinking, whoa, didn't expect this many baddies. And they're way tougher than expected. He's wondering how these pros stayed hidden. But winning here isn't the endgame. This fight's all about the aura users. The two might be red, but Alan's still a noob. Then, a vamp eats the woman far away. But the girl's like, nope, and grabs the ground. The guy's like, wow, she's got skills for a kid. But he's also like, she's no match for me. The battle's going great for the boys. But the vamps aren't quitting. They're all, Tessernak's got our backs. The main dude's like, whoa, a vamp with aura powers. And Barath's like, if Durrell joins, we're toast. Meanwhile, Alan's struggling to keep up. She thinks she's got more battle aura and experience, but can't fight back. The vamp's grinning, saying Tessernak's power lets him use aura even in the dark side. The woman asks her crew if these vamps have any weak spots. Karnak's like, no clue. Never had vamps on my team. Too weak. Aelin's like, I can't win solo. Barath's like, I'm not much help without my aura, but remember plan B. But the girl's not into the whole possession thing. She decides to power through with her own strength, shouting she just needs to trust her battle aura. And she attacks the vamp, but he blocks it. Alan seizes the moment to strike, and the vamp's like, determination won't cut it. He dodges easily, and counterattacks, saying Tessernak's got their back. The girl realizes just boosting her aura isn't enough. Barath messages her, saying it won't work, and reminds her of what he said during training. He tells her to mimic the feeling from when he possessed her, and says that experience should be in her muscle memory. She closes her eyes to focus, and her sword's aura gets bigger. Her opponent's impressed, but still charges, saying her plan's a bust. But before he can act, she strikes him, and is shocked it worked. She takes the chance to unleash a combo of attacks, finally getting the hang of it. And she's thinking, gotta focus on more than just my sword or this dude in front of me, because it's all about figuring out what the other guy's planning. Then the vampire steps up, that trick's not gonna work on me. But she blocks it like a boss. Right after, she's like, gotta guess his next move, so she can strike back when he slows down. With that focus, she lands a solid hit to his gut. Karnak's looks like we won't need plan B, and his buddy's like, she's got this. Tarman's like, almost wrapped up. The vampire's struggling, thinking, what's up with her? She's different now. Then he decides to go all out, even if it means risking it all. He unleashes a massive energy blast. Callow's like, that aura's gonna finish him, and his friend says he can just regen his body anyway. Everyone's freaking out, telling Aelin to back off, but she's thinking, no need to bail, because she trusts her lord to hook her up with new gear and legs. So she goes all in to see who wins. Their attacks clash. Boom, huge explosion. Tarman's like, that was wild. Then, the enemy's head drops. She nailed him. After Alice heals her wounds, and she thanks her, and her buddy's like, we owe you big time, because without her, they'd all be toast. Tarman's like, got enough proof, let's hit up HQ to say we're ready to judge Brelent. At the Count's castle, they storm in to take out the vamps. Alice throws a spell at the creatures. In his room, Brelent's got a dagger. Hearing the chaos, he tells Testranak to look after his kid, then decides to off himself. Nearby, some hooded figures are sneaking out. They're vamps taking the Count's kid somewhere else. The kid's mad, swearing revenge on the king's orders, but someone blocks their way. It's the hero squad, saying they tracked them with necromancy traces. The vamps tell the kid to hang back, they'll handle it. But before they can, Karnak uses his powers to stop them, and they realize he's got necromancy skills. With a creepy grin, the kid's like, let's cut to the chase. After taking out the baddies, the kid gathers his dark energy, and grins as he absorbs it all. Then he snaps his fingers. The vamps' bodies start burning, and Alan's like, what are you doing? We need to report this. But the heroes chill, saying he absorbed all their dark energy. Barath's worried, asking if his master can handle all that darkness. The kid's like, gotta take risks in this mess. Then Karnak's like, we've faced some tough foes lately. Shutlaf was a priest turned necromancer, but kept his divine magic. And even as a vamp, Durald could still use his battle aura, which needs life force. The kid's like, divine magic and battle aura are still big headaches for us. Then he says mixing those energies was impossible. But now, that's changed. Mages can use magic with necromancy, and aura users can mix their aura with dark powers. Bareth asks if he's seen anything like Death Knights, and he says they turn undead. Then Karnak's like, even the 4 great kings and 3 archmages could turn on us, being a little strong ain't enough. The kid decides to gather all the power he can. At the King's Order HQ, Arentil's like, Tarman's been hyping the newbies, so he wants to recognize their help and welcome them to the Order. Karnak's like, can't believe this. The guy gives them a badge, welcoming them, and says they're official members now, asking if they can get to the point. The squad's totally shook to find out they're already on the grind, and Arentil's all, dude, HQ's got a backlog of missions. Then the boys start questioning if joining this squad was a genius move or a total flop. Time flies and the crew's busy with all sorts of tasks. Also, losing hours on end writing reports, But the main dude's using these missions to soak up some epic apocalyptic vibes. After that, Karnak's collecting some serious necromantic power, deciding to split the necromantic force from chaos magic, so he can mix and level them up. The dude's grinning because he hit the jackpot, reaching the 6th circle. Back at HQ, everyone's buzzing about the main guy leveling up. Karnak's busy spinning wild tales for the crew. Alan's all, why is the boss so into storytelling, when no one's clued in about the apocalyptic darkness? Right after, Arentil's grinning in his office, because their kingdom's about to score its own archmage. The main dude's stoked, because no one's caught on that he's a necromancer. Then the guy's like, there's a spot open for the 7th Battalion Commander, and you should totally go for it, because he got the thumbs up from everyone and he's more than ready. Arentil's all, everyone's counting on you, so give it your all. A few weeks later, at the Athra border fortress, a girl's in the hallway praying, asking the goddess to chill out the sinners. That girl's Milia, shaking just thinking about the torture going down in that room. But thanks to her commander Karnak, she dodged that bullet. Inside, Bareth's grilling a dude who insists he spilled all the beans. Alan's like, we've done enough fake interrogations. Milia's probably bought it. The knight's all, looks like this guy's already checked out. Karnak jumps up, super hyped, saying it's showtime. The main dude uses his skills to zombify the guy, but he just says Tessernac's the god of creation who's gonna flip the world. Seeing another flop, the young dude's like, how come none of them know their god's backstory? Right after, the girl's like, all we know is the Dark Church is run by 3 big bosses and 6 cardinals, with 13 archbishops under them. Each area's got bishops running the show, making it easy to cut ties. Baroth's like, if that's the case, we gotta nab a bishop. The main dude's bummed because they need someone higher up. In his office, Arentil's sweating over giving the squad a mission. Karnak's curious about who's got the guy so worked up. The guy spills that it's the 2nd prince of the Eustil Kingdom, Alfred. At first, the boys are shocked, but they see this as their big break. In Eustil, the king's 2 sons are duking it out for the throne. There's Lyod, the 1st prince, and Alfred, the 2nd. Normally, the 1st prince would snag the throne, but there's a twist. Duke Wheeler's daughter got hitched for family reasons, but no kids for over a decade. Needing an heir, the king brought in Marquise Talain's daughter as a sidekick, and boom, she's pregnant 3 months later. She pops out Lyod, and the king's over the moon, declaring him the future king. But then, the young woman gets pregnant again, and the 2nd prince is born. With no clear winner, the throne's up for grabs. The king's like, I'll decide when both are grown-ups. In the capital, Karnak's like, if one prince bites the dust, the other takes the crown. And he mentions the families backing the princes have been brawling for 20 years. Alling's like, why doesn't the king pick based on skills or character? The dude explains, Lyod's got the honesty thing down, but they're both too young to prove themselves. The girl asks why not just pick the 1st prince, and her master's like, he's too frail, always sick these days. Meanwhile, Alfred's crushing it in physical and martial arts. Bareth's all curious about who snitched on the prince for hanging with the cultists, and his buddy spills that it was a spy sent by Lyod. Just to be safe, the prince scribbled a secret letter to the king's crew, but Arentil totally figured out where it came from. Then Karnak's like, that's all the tea for now, but they'll send more deets soon. The squad finally rolls up to the spot where they're meeting Lyod's spy. They walk in and spot a hooded dude looking all jittery. The boys roll up to him, and he greets them, asking how he can help. Karnak flashes his badge, asking if he's the one with the prince's secret scoop. The hooded guy's curious if they're the ones sent by Arentil. Bareth's like, dude, can you prove who you are? And the guy's like, all I got is my face as proof. When they see who it really is, the squad's shook, because it's actually Prince Alfred. Karnak's all confused why the dude's there to rat himself out. The guy spills that he's actually Lyod, using his bro's face. After some chat, the prince explains his soul got swapped with Alfred's. The main character's thinking, that's definitely the wrong soul in that bod. Lyod's like, it's a wild story, and Karnak says it might be possible with necromancy. Then the prince says joining the king's crew was smart because someone would recognize the spell. The guy asks how a non-necromancer like the boy believes he's Prince Lyod. Karnak's like, no one would go this far to snitch on themselves, and as a king's crew member, he knows a bit about necromancy. Then the young dude takes a deep breath, wondering if there's a magic way to prove it. The main character says they need to gather some proof first and wonders where Lyod was when he got body swapped. Then the prince shares it happened a few days ago, when he was getting his daily magic healing before bed, and Barras like, how's that even possible? And the guy's like, he's just super sensitive. Right after, he says magic barriers were set up around the castle, and he's puzzled how they swapped his body. Karnak's like, it's hard to get, but maybe the enemies use long-distance necromancy to dodge the barrier. But to pull that off, they'd need the right gear inside the palace. Lyod says when he woke up, he was in a weird place. At first, he was confused why he wasn't feeling his usual aches, and then he notices he's got more muscles than before. Then he wonders if he got kidnapped. Suddenly, a bunch of hooded folks enter the room. The prince is like, what did you do to me? One of them uses magic to pop up a mirror and says he'll show what they did. Lyod looks in the mirror and is shook, because he's in Alfred's body. The guys explain it's all thanks to the power of the almighty Tesranak. Hearing this, the prince realizes they're cultists and asks what they want by swapping his body. Right after, someone enters the room, leaving the young dude surprised, because it's Sebastian, one of Alfred's crew. Lyod's like, why does bro's buddy swap his master into a weak body like his and says it's probably a betrayal? Sebastian grins and says anyone can believe that. The prince checks the young dude's chill and thinks it was Alfred's idea. Then he asks what the guy wants from him, but the henchman lets Lyod go, saying he wants nothing from him. Then he bounces, telling the prince to chill and behave, and then locks the young dude in there. In the bar, Lyod says all the windows and doors were shut, but honestly, it wasn't too bad, because he felt healthy and ate the best grub ever. Alan's like, how'd the prince escape? The guy says when they hear the story, they'll be mind blown. In captivity, the prince eats like never before. While peeping the security through the window, the young dude thinks maybe he can use that body as a shield to dodge getting hurt. Then he starts believing in his escape thanks to the muscles in that body. In the hallway, 4 elite knights are escorting a maid to the prisoner's room. Sebastian's crew is all, dude, chill, you worry too much. Lyda probably can't even hold a sword right. Then, boom, the girl knocks, saying it's chow time. From inside, the young dude's like, come on in. But surprise, surprise, the prince goes all ninja, ambushing a guard from behind. He grabs the sword, ready to go full action hero mode. The soldiers are like, whoa, that's definitely not Lyod in there. Then the young guys all, ever tried fencing with a zombie? It's all about mastering your moves with 0 energy, but now I can do it for real. He charges at the knights, all, watch this, I'm about to show off my skills. And just like that, Lyod wipes out all the baddies, leaving just the maid. But he's like, chill, I'm not gonna hurt you. Then he locks her in, saying, hang tight, I need you to stay put for a bit. The prince starts sneaking down the hallway, looking for an escape route. But oops, he bumps into more soldiers. He's ready to draw his sword, but the guards are treating him like he's Alfred. And he's like, wait, they don't know it's not me. In the bar, Lyod spills the tea that only a few of his bros' crew knew about the body swap, and he used that to make a break for it. He's like, I had no clue where to go in this body. My peeps wouldn't believe me. So he hides out in the slums, hoping the king's order can help. Karnak's like, first, we gotta find those cultists, but they're sneaky little buggers. They figure the bad guys have ditched the hideout and need a plan to lure them out. Lyod's all, I'll be the bait. But the hero's like, nah, you're not juicy enough. Then he's like, we need something no necromancer can resist. A few days later, Sebastian's wondering where the runaway prince is, thinking it's bad news if he seeks help. A bishop named Deathless from the Dark God's Church says they've got spies everywhere. 2 other boys are like, if Lyod's up to something, we'll know soon. They explain they just need to get Alfred's body to the right spot at the right time. The bishop's like, everything's cool, the soul ring's still good. But they gotta stay on their toes, because finding the prince's body with necromancy is a no-go. Deathless is all, we need the perfect conditions. Then a guard bursts in, saying the prince has been spotted. He's chilling in the east, near Dallin Road. Sebastian's like, did Lyod make contact? The guy's like, nope, and Sebastian orders the Red Flame squad to roll out. The young dude's relieved, thinking they can finally focus on the real deal. Later, a hooded figure's strolling down the street. But oh, she's being tailed by a bunch of dudes. It's Lyod, and he's like, what you guys want? One of them's like, we're here to escort you. Lyod's trying to explain he's not Alfred, but they're all, whoa, why is our master acting so weird? One henchman steps up, saying they've got orders to take him, even if it gets rough, and apologizes for the hassle. But before things get wild, Alan shows up in a hood. She's like, "You want to try taking the prince? Be my guest." Then she whips out a spell. The guys freak out, calling her a demon. They bolt, clueless about handling necromancers. But before they get far, portals pop up in front of them. Tentacles shoot out, grabbing the dudes. And, well, they're toast. Lyod's spooked, wondering if that was legit magic. 2 days earlier, the guy's curious about the bait plan. Karnak's like, "Necromancers hate exposure. They only show up for a tough fight, so we need a strong ally." In this case, a buddy who's got dark magic skills. The protagonists all, "Yo, the enemies are gonna think we won't snitch if we got a necromancer buddy, and they'll probs want to snag that power." Lyod's all curious, asking how that even work, and the dude's like, "It just looked like we're doing necromancy." Then he spills the tea, saying they'll use stuff to fake it, and outsiders would totally buy it. The prince gets all hyped, saying he expected nothing less from the king's squad. Flash forward to that night, the protagonist checks if Lyod's chill, and Lyod's like, "Yeah, thanks to Alain." He admits he really thought they were using necromancy, and the young dude grins, saying that's dope. Then the young dude's like, "Oh, one of the guards bailed." But Karnak's all, "No biggie. We just needed those necromancers to bite." Later at the Alfred crib, Sebastian hears his crew got hit by necromancy. He's shook to see Lyod rolling with folks using banned magic. Deflas and his squad roll up, telling him to chill, cause that's their jam, being necromancers and all. The young dude's like, "I'll let the bishop handle this." The man bounces with his crew, saying he'll be back with the prince soon. Deflas grins, ready to soak up all that dark power from the mystery necromancer. On Dallin Street, the young dude's plan is to wait for the necromancer to come for his power. The idea is to stay hidden, ambush him, and then split the power with his homies. The squad's down with the plan, but not thrilled about being bait. Then one of the boys pops necromancy into a lantern, summoning the souls of cursed warriors. He orders them to obey and find the enemy. Karnak uses a spell to see the necromancers already on the way. Baroth's like, "Those ghosts are in a rush to find us." The protagonists all, "Let's gear up for their arrival," and tells the prince they don't need his help, cause it'd be a mess if he got caught, and Lyod's like, "Cool, cool." But he's curious why they're packing random stuff like a frying pan and a broom. Karnak grins, saying those are their secret weapons against necromancers. In the streets, the ghosts keep hunting for their targets, phasing through a restaurant's walls to track them down, freaking people out. From a distance, Alan's wondering why the souls are dragging innocent folks into this. Baroth's like, "At least they're not hurting anyone," and the girls all, "Why do it then?" The knight explains they could off them to get more minions, and his buddy's spooked. Then a ghost zooms through the wall right behind them. Something's up with the soul lantern. The necromancer notices one spirit got wrecked. His buddy asks where the ghost bit the dust. Then, a dark power shows up behind them. The boy's quick to send his spirits forward, and the ghosts charge at the kids. One necromancer's like, "Are those the targets?" But they start thinking it's sus, cause the boy's facing spirits with a mop, and the girl's wielding a frying pan. The enemies wonder if it's some kind of necromancy. Baroth uses the messaging system to tell his buddy to stick to the plan. Then, they keep taking down those creatures with their everyday stuff. The necromancers decide to wrap it up fast, and open a portal, unleashing chaos hands. The knight's impressed by the enemy's skills. A hand lunges at the boy, but he dodges like he's busting a move. Meanwhile, Alan stomps over the hands, all fired up. Baroth tells his buddy it's time for the next phase. Then, they toss their stuff in the air, grabbing their swords. They slam their weapons down, making a magic wave, smashing the enemy's barrier. Then they grab their stuff again, and Baroth's like, "You'll need to do better to beat us." One boy ditches his cloak, saying he'll handle it. Then the necromancer starts morphing. Alan's like, "Dude's turning into a demon." Baroth splits from his buddy, telling her to do her thing. Then, the girl starts battling the enemy. The demon's all, "Yo, she's good, but she's stuck in that human bod." The woman fires back, "This monster's got nothing on me." The necromancer's like, I'm so done with this human," and goes for the attack. But Alan's got her trusty frying pan, blocking like a pro. The baddies are all, seriously, again with the pan. They're scratching their heads, wondering what kind of magic that is. From a distance, Karnak's grinning. They have no clue those things are just regular old kitchen gear. Turns out, the pan and mop are just distractions for his dark energy tricks. The hero's thinking, okay, we're good for now, but they're catching on. One necromancer's like, wait a sec, something's off here. They're battling ghosts, but the dark vibes are coming from somewhere else. He spots it's coming from a rooftop. Realizing they've been played, the boy's like, forget these guys, the real deal's up there. Baroth and his buddy rush the demon, who's all, oh no, they figure it out. He blasts power, saying they just need to take down the master. The attack smashes the hero's shield to bits. The demon's laughing, that was too easy. But Karnak's like, nah, I'm still good. Aelin and her buddy sneak up from behind, landing a solid hit. Boom, the necromancers are caught. Baroth's like, wake up, you clowns. One kid's all, we won't let this slide. but he stops when he sees the hero's dark energy is way stronger. Karnak's like, time for a little chat. The baddies realize they can't spill the beans, so they decide to stop their hearts for Tessernak. The hero's like, seriously, that's what you call necromancers. He yanks their souls out, threatening to send them to the underworld, so they spill the tea. Karnak's like, let's take this convo somewhere chill. Barros wondering what to do with the bodies, and his buddy's like, bring them, they might come in handy. He remembers Leod said there were 3 cultists, so they're still missing 1, and these 2 could be bait. Alan's like, where's this 3rd necromancer hiding? Meanwhile, Deathless is sweating, didn't think his crew would flop so fast. He's kicking himself for falling for such a basic trick. He's trying to figure out their power levels, but he can't let them slip away, needs that dark energy trio. In a creepy house, the hero's grilling the hostages with undead magic. The boys spill their Bishop Deathless's crew, and they're under Cardinal Hudel, who runs the Ustil Kingdom. Karnak's like, who's this bishop dude? One kid's like, he's a necromancer chatting with the big bosses. The hero's like, aha, that's the 3rd guy we're after. He asks how they broke the divine barrier and swapped the prince's body. The kid explains they cursed Prince Alfred, not his bro. He says the curse made it easy to swap bodies with Alfred, didn't even need Leod. Karnak's like, even if Leod's the winner, his will matters. The necromancer says they use a magic mirror to show the prince for the ritual. The hero's curious why Alfred chose his bro's weak body. But before they answer, boom, a huge explosion. Deathless shows up, thinking he's got this in the bag, but he hears someone calling him. He looks over, sees the kids survive the blast. Karnak's grinning, my gut feeling's on point. The guy's thinking hard about this opponent, knows he needs to be careful. He casts his spell, freezing the whole place. And then, ice werewolves pop up. Ailing's thinking about how that enemy totally flipped the environment, and says he looked like Shutlaf, which means, duh, they couldn't do anything there. Then the main dude fires up one of his skills, saying they just needed to slap on a barrier like last time. Deathless is all, what's that? The ice creatures start melting like ice cream in summer, and poof, the necromancer's power vanishes. The guy asks if the kid knows how to stop that spell he was going to use, because it was a blessing from Tessernak. Right after, Deathless calls on his spirits, and bam, ghosts everywhere. And Barrow's like, oh, so we're doing the numbers game, huh? Then he asks if they should bail, but his master's like, nah, we're good. The boys all, flaming bullet magic, let's go. And, no chill, fires at the necromancer. Karnak's like, that was the old me. Seeing that move, Deathless is shook, saying a regular necromancer can't do that, only those blessed by Tessernak. The main dude tells his buddy it's time to stop pretending. The girl powers up her sword with her aura, and uses it to smack those ghosts. The necromancer's shocked they have an aura user too. Then, Karnak casts a spell, summoning his crew to wreck the target. The main dude's ghosts start brawling with the enemies. Deathless is like, for someone who doesn't worship Tessernak, the kid's rocking necromancy. But he gets mad, thinking it's another trick. Barroth jumps into the ghost fight. Alan's hyped, saying she wants to move like that too. Then someone yells at them, calling them silly pagans. Deathless is all, I'll show you the real deal. The main dude's worried, because he feels both necromancy and magic. Then, the necromancer calls the earth souls to rise, and a monster pops up from the ground. Karnak's like, I expected more, and his buddy's like, still gonna be tough. Alan's ready to take it on. Deathless uses his magic again, summoning armor. The woman wonders how it uses gear without a body, and her master's like, chill, I know its weak spot. The necromancer hits the armor, asking Tessernak to bless him. Then, the gear starts breaking apart, merging with the golem's body. Deathless grins, saying he's gonna end this, and orders his golem knight to school the kids. Seeing this, Karnak's like, this one's gonna be tough. The guy says this is the real power of a god. Then, the monster slams the ground, sending a shockwave at the boys, but Alan jumps in, blocking it, but thinks that thing's stronger than most top-tier demons. Karnak sends his magic bullets flying, but they do zilch. Barroth asks his master what to do. With a grin, the main dude's like, no clue, leaving his buddy annoyed, not noticing the golem charging at them. Boom, an explosion from the charge, tossing the kids out of the building. Barroth's like, I'll take Deathless, you handle the golem. The two charge in, and the knight heads for the necromancer, but the creature blocks him. Alan sneaks up behind the monster, saying she's its opponent, and then whacks it on the head with her sword, but it does nothing. Then it tries to hit the kids, but they dodge. Deathless grins, saying this is the power of a true god. The squad's like, what now? Alan and her buddy say if the boys got any tricks, now's the time. The main dude puts his hand on the ground, saying questions can wait. Then he explains to beat the golem, they need more power, and mentions he prepped something just in case. Then, 2 undead rise from the ground, reviving those 2 necromancers who tried to off the kid. Karnak's like, those 2 are packed with necromancy. Then, 1 zombie grabs his lantern to summon his spirits. Meanwhile, His buddy goes full demon mode. Deathlace is shook, wondering how the kid controls other necromancers' powers. Then, the monsters charge at the guy, who tells his golem to handle them. The monster swings its sword, scattering the ghosts. After that, the demon tries to smack the creature, but the golem's like, nah, and grabs it by the neck, then yeets it far away. Deathlace is all. Is that all you got, kiddos? He says their fight's pointless, they can't kill him. The boy's like, what are you even on about? Then he blasts bullets at the golem again, telling it to quit the drama and start brawling. Baroth and his buddy strut towards victory, and the undead and ghosts are like, let's join the party. Deathlace calls his knight to come save him. The golem starts slicing spirits like it's Fruit Ninja. Alan sneaks up from behind, unnoticed, smacks its armor, and it cracks, but not enough. The demon shows up to lend a hand, hits the same spot the girl did before. The girl goes, hey, the plan's working. The necromancer's shook, seeing his servant's armor crack. Suddenly, Baroth tries a sneak attack, but it fails, and the dude tells his golem to handle it. The monster blocks the boy's move. Aelin and the demon see their chance and attack. They team up to land a big hit on the enemy. Deathlace is like, at this rate, my servant's gonna be armorless. The trio teams up to take down the golem. Then the necromancer's like, you think that's enough to beat Tessranak's power? The guy's annoyed, asking his god for strength. A green glow covers the golem's whole body. Seeing the creature about to attack, the boy warns his buddy to watch out. The monster hits harder than before, but the kids dodge it. Baroth's like, the plan's working, but we need more power, and his master agrees. With a serious face, the hero says it's their only shot. Then the necromancer tells his servant to take out his old pals first. The rest's easy. The golem charges to do its job. Alan wants to help, but Karnak's like, nah, let them fall into the trap. Then the undead's chests start glowing, and they self-destruct, leaving nothing behind. The necromancer's like, how can a human be so cold? Karnak laughs, funny coming from a necromancer. Deathlace figures they'll try to get info from him, so he decides to end it, and just like his pals, he stops his own heart. The hero's like, guess he wasn't that smart after all. But then the boy's body starts glowing green, and his soul leaves his body. Karnak realizes the necromancer planned for his soul to go to Tessranak. Elaine's like, the boy's soul is escaping. The boy's frustrated, realizing he underestimated his foe. But suddenly, Deathlace's soul pops up, confused why it's not with Tessranak. Baroth grins, dude, you messed up big time. The hero joins in, you gotta nail the basics of necromancy. Karnak chuckles, can we get back to our chat? Later, they take the necromancer's soul to a secret spot. Alan asks if his master can keep using that interrogation magic. Baroth says it's risky, but nothing compared to the hero. Then the boy calls his servant over, but something starts coming out of Deathlace's body, and a demon appears, making the girl wonder what it is. The boys explain that getting too close to your soul makes you crazy, thanks to the lunatic demon. The girl asks if that creature drove them mad. Soon after, the demon vanishes. Karnak wonders if his soul's really that bad. The hero starts interrogating, asking why Alfred swapped bodies with his bro. Deathlace says the curse is part of a plan for Alfred to secure succession rights. Karnak's curious about the plan. Later, Lyod meets the group, asking about the necromancer, and the boy says it's sorted. Then the young man reveals they found out how to lift the curse and Alfred's plans, and the prince asks for details. Alright, buckle up, because this story's about to get wild. So, the main dude spills the beans that the whole body swap thing was just a temp gig, and Alfred never planned on sticking around in that weak body. Then, he whips out this mysterious object, saying it's the key to flipping the spell back. All you gotta do is let it soak up some full moon vibes and, oh yeah, spill some fresh blood. Yikes. Lyod's all, no wonder my bro wanted his OG body close by. Karnak chimes in, saying Alfred's got another full moon scheme, and it's a doozy. Take out King Wiscott using Lyod's bod. Sneaky, right? The plan? Visit the king, wait for the right moment, strike, then bounce back to his own body. The prince is like, how's my bro gonna pull that off with his noodle arms? Karnak's like, dude was banking on getting caught. Lyod's mind is blown and he's wondering if he just needs to chill till the full moon. He jokes about chugging poison before swapping back, but Karnak's like, nah, bad idea. If one body gets wrecked, you're stuck. Then, Karnak's all, Alfred might not even know his body's MIA. Prince Alfred's chilling in his room, probably using necromancers to keep tabs, but now he's flying solo. The main dude's curious about Alfred's next move now that it's dark, and Lyod's like, he'll probably hit pause on his evil plans. Someone asks how to convince folks, and another wonders why he'd want to switch back. Healthier bod, duh. Karnak explains the spell's a temp fix because the soul and body don't vibe. Side effects are coming, and in about 3 months, the prince is gonna go bonkers. Lyod's sweating bullets, thinking about getting his body back. Meanwhile, Karnak's plotting to make a golden connection since they beat the cultist. The main dude asks if the prince is down for some bro revenge, and he's all in, grinning with a killer idea. Over at Eustil Palace, Alfred's soul's struggling in Leo's weak body, but freedom's on the horizon. Even without his cultist crew, he's not backing down. Suddenly, a squad bursts in, saying they gotta bounce, and he's like, what's the deal? A maid's like, I'll help you walk, master, cause you're looking rough. A knight spills that Alfred's crew's hunting for him. The prince is thinking his bro's not usually this rash. At the castle gates, Lyod's flexing, telling everyone to back off from their future king. The guards are puzzled about Alfred's antics. One guard's like, the king's not gonna be thrilled seeing his son like this, and the boy's like, I'm here for Lyod. He quickly adds there's no need for a bloodbath since he'll be king someday. The knight orders his squad to move in, thinking the prince has lost it. Lyod's not backing down, dodging attacks without hurting anyone. Two soldiers try to nab him, but he shakes him off. The knights realizing they can't stop him without getting rough. Then bam, a blue light zaps the palace, catching everyone off guard. The guards are shook, wondering if Alfred's got backup. Karnak and his crew roll up, calling for the knight. The knight's like, who are you guys? And the boy's like, we're with the king, here on Lyod's call. They hand over a letter from the prince, and the soldier's like, that's legit handwriting. Lyod's got a plan. He's stoked, cause if things go south, there's a scapegoat. The prince is curious about these new folks, declaring no one's stopping him. Karnak's like, we'll handle Alfred. And the knight's like, cool, but don't hurt him. Alan steps up, ready to handle business. The guys are stunned because the girl's an aura user. They charge at each other, and it's on. And the woman almost clocks the prince, like, whoa, close call. The two just lock eyes, like they're in some intense staring contest. Meanwhile, Bareth's over here, dropping battle tips like he's a coach or something. Then bam, Alan lands a hit on the young dude, and it's game over. The guy's down on his knees, and the knights are all, is this confusion finally done? Karnak whips out some magic to lock down the prince. Lyod's all fake annoyed like, get these chains off me, guys. The knight's super grateful, saying the boys wrapped up that mess in record time. Then he tells his crew to hold the prince until they get the royal thumbs up. The main character rolls up, asking if he can chat with Gilliard for a sec. In his room, Alfred hears his bro got nabbed and is under kingly watch. He's all curious about what's gonna happen with dinner with dad. The maid's like, for your safety, dinner's a no-go. Then the prince is all, how are we gonna get fresh blood if I'm stuck here? Suddenly, he starts glowing like a human glow stick, and poof, Alfred's back in his own body. He's super annoyed, like, what just happened? Then Karnak's crew barges into his cell, and he's all, who are you guys? The main character's got a needle, saying, names aren't your business. A few days later, the squad finally meets Lyod in his real body. The prince is all thankful, saying without them, he'd be toast thanks to his bro's tricks. Karnak's like, just doing my job, dude. Then Lyod spills that Alfred's crew got totally wrecked, and the investigation's going strong. The guy's only bummed he can't give them a proper reward. He says he kept the whole incident on the down low, as requested. Then he tells the prince that taking down some necromancers is reward enough, and the prince gets all emotional. Bareth's curious about Alfred's fate, and Lyod's like, it's top secret, but I'll spill. Turns out, his bro self-terminated in the cell. Then he mentions the clerics found some spooky darkness in his body, definitely necromancer stuff. The main character's pals think the author was his master, but he denies it. Alan's all, what you do with that needle? And he says he just messed with his thoughts. Then the prince is like, you sure you don't want anything? I'll do whatever. Karnak's curious if he can call for help with future necromancer drama. Lyod's like, sure thing, I've got something for you. He hands over an object to the boy, and explains it's a token showing the young dude's got his backing, making cultist hunting a breeze. The trio's super impressed, knowing it's gonna be a game changer. Lyod's confident they'll use the artifact wisely. Later, someone tells Hudel the mission in the kingdom of Eustil flopped. The prince got his body back, and Bishop Deathless got axed. And his boss asks if all traces are gone. His sidekick says they took care of everyone linked to Alfred, and Hudel's wondering who messed up his plans. Then the henchman hands over an item, saying it's where Alfred's soul is stashed. The guy's all, what now? Since Elazar wants them to keep tabs on the kingdom of Eustil. A while back, the woman asked the young dude to watch the northeast part of the continent, and he's curious if she meant his kingdom. Elazar's like, yup, and mentions some weird stuff's going down. Hudel's all, what are we looking for? Exactly. The woman's like, stuff we didn't do, but looks like our work. Back to now, the young dude's pondering her words. His sidekick says there's a problem, and the guy's like, what's up? The henchman says they couldn't snag Bishop Deathlass's soul. Hudel's shocked, because the necromancer's soul should have gone straight to Tessernac. He bolts, ordering the necromantic ritual to get going. As the ritual kicks off, he's calling for the bishop. But then he realizes his buddy's soul is totally MIA, and he's wondering if the enemies are behind this mess. After that, he's all like, magic or divine summoning needs some serious boss-level authority, and he's never heard of anyone that epic. He starts thinking maybe it's another necromancer outside the church, since those powerhouses pop up now and then. But he's like, no way anyone could break the seal of Testranak. Then he wonders if Alfred saw something. And boom, he summons the prince's soul, Hudel's all. Did anyone else try to mess with the succession plan? But Alfred's like, dude, what are you even talking about? The guy gets curious if the cult didn't team up with him for some sneaky help. And the prince is like, what's that supposed to mean? Hudel realizes Alfred forgot working with them. He figures it's a super strong necromancer's doing. Finally, he gets what Elazar was hinting at. He turns to his sidekick, saying they gotta check out the kingdom of Eustil. And the sidekick's like, who do we send? The young dude's thinking, when hunting for this stuff, best to stir things up. Then he orders them to use the cursed blade from the main temple. His sidekick's freaked out, warning they can't control it. The guy grins, saying their enemy will have to show themselves eventually. A few days later, in a magic-proof cabin near the capital, the hero learns about Hudel from Deathlass's soul. The boy grins, saying if they dig into this person, they'll find more juicy stuff. Then, someone calls for the young dude. Looking back, he sees his pals calling him for a snack break. Karnak's like, no time to chill. Then he stomps to the table, annoyed, saying it's their shot to fix things. And Bareth's like, learn anything cool? The hero says he found someone who can get them closer to the Church of the Dark God, named Hudel. Alan's like, once we're done munching, back to the king's orders. But the boy's like, not finished yet. Then he whips up 2 energy spheres and merges them, explaining it's the necromancy fusion Deathless used, learned through some intense questioning. Karnak's grinning. Now he can rock the magic and necromancy combo. Days later, the boy gathers his crew, saying it took a while to crack and use the new spell formula. His buddy's like, what's he on about? And the young dude explains it's the fusion trick from Deathlass. He mentions this energy's got necromancy vibes. The woman asks if everything's sorted, and his master's like, yep, found a way to use it. Then, Karnak stretches his hand, summoning the earth spirit. And bam! A massive golem pops up from the ground. Seeing this, Baroth's curious if his master can armor up the creature like the necromancer, and he's like, nope, but he learned something else. Right after, he summons a bunch of earth monsters. The woman's like, is it normal to summon so many golems? And the hero says he'd need control formulas for each, tough even for an archmage. But instead of those, he used leftover necromancy will, commanding loads of golems. The knight's like, dude's using the best of necromancy and magic, and he's like, it's safer since dark energy doesn't show when the other's in play. Karnak's planning to make more cool formulas like that, getting way stronger. Then he's like, no clue who made that formula, but suspects one of the 3 archmages, cause it's tricky. Bareth's like, why bother with necromancy? And the hero's like, cause it makes them stronger by mastering extra power. Alan asks how his buddy's aura game's going, and the knight's bummed, saying, not great. Karnak's like, during questioning, found out why his buddy's aura's not waking up. Then he's like, apparently Barrow's a necromancer. But the knight's like, just a sword guy, and his buddy's like, nothing special about being a necromancer. So, Barrow's all about controlling the dark powers, but he's been out of the game since they time-traveled back. Karnak jumps in, saying his buddy's dark night days left his soul all shadowy. The main dude's like, what's the diff between that and a necromancer? Barov's like, how do we fix this? And his pal's like, dude, we already cleaned your soul when we got here, but it might be too late. And the knight's all tears on the floor. Then he gets it. He's got to use his own epic skills to wake up his aura. Karnak spins around, telling his buddy to hit the books, and Barov's all salty, cause his master's not helping. Days fly by, and the squad's back at the king's HQ, all pumped about their progress. But the knight's still bummed, cause his aura's still snoozing. Then someone rolls up to the crew, saying Commander Arentel's got a mission. A blood-sucking beasties causing chaos down south in Zettelba, with 500 victims in 10 days. The boys are shook. Arentel kicks off a meeting, thanking everyone for showing up fast. He's like, this is serious. Had to call in the big guns. Bareth texts his crew, yo, this is major. The commander's like, for the newbies, here's the scoop. He spills that 10 days ago, a village got drained of blood. The temple thought it was a vampire, but their squad came back lifeless, and 4 villages got wrecked in 5 days. Actionbat, a big city, got hit, and witnesses saw a young woman with a massive sword. The Order figured out the sword's a cursed blade that turns people into bloodthirsty maniacs. The boys are mind-blown like, a sword can't be that ob. Evil cultists love tossing cursed stuff into the world to stir up trouble. The goddess's order suspected them and sent the 5th battalion, but they got wiped out. Arentel's like, this is the worst since the king's order started, that's why you're here. He admits even he might not make it out okay. Karnak's like, no cursed sword can beat a purple knight like Arentel. And Alan's like, how do you know? The main dude's like, as a necromancer lord, I've never seen anything like it. The girl's like, hard to trust you. Dude, But he insists it's impossible for a human to wield such a powerful cursed blade. He starts thinking there's more to this. The commander's ready to help, but someone at the table's like, nah, you're one of the few purple knights. It's a trap. The young guy's like, Arental, let us handle it. The commander agrees, appointing Zekan as leader and Karnak as vice leader. It's a team up with battalions 1 and 7 to stop the cursed blade. As night falls, the vampire hits another village. The squad reaches a small village in Zedelba, but it's already trashed. Zilkin's like, was this Merida, the cursed blade? His buddy says survivors are hiding in a temple called Seisha. The dudes relieve and asks 2 girls if they've tracked the sword. Milia, from the 7th Battalion, spills the tea that they found some spooky dark energy leftovers from the cursed blade leading to the forest. Alan hits up his master, asking if he really thinks they found the weapon, and the boys all, yup, looks like it, because the blade's totally leaving energy crumbs everywhere it goes. Barrow's like, next part's gonna be tough, since the cursed blade's supposedly as strong as a purple knight, and he's wondering if his buddy can handle it, and she's like, not sure, dude. After a bit, they stumble upon the possessed girl. Zilkin's all, is this the baddie we were after? And someone goes, yep, and for sure, the blade's the evil aura's source. Before moving on, the leader's like, heads up, the sword drinks enemy blood. Right after, he tells Bareth to rally the squad and make a barrier to squeeze the enemy. While the knight takes some peeps, the dude tells the rest they'll attack head-on. Then he turns to Karnak, saying, stay sharp and cover all the barrier gaps while we check things out, because, since it's their first team-up, it's probably the safest bet. The soldiers start pushing from the front, while Baroth and his crew sneak around the back. Watching from a distance, Zilkin thinks this ambush is the best way to scope things out. Then, the dude decides to whip out a fire spell. The main guy's like, expected, nothing less from a 7th circle mage. But the vampire shrugs off the attack. Then, she charges at the dude, cackling. But one of the knights blocks the hit. One of the guys tries to sneak in a hit while the enemy's guard's down. But the vampire spins around, blocking it. Then, the woman starts taking on all the knights at once. Zilkin uses his skills to make it rain ice. But with just her aura, the woman shatters the icy spears. Even defending herself, the girl ends up with some frozen bits. 2 knights seize the chance to try and take down the wild vampire. They swing, but miss her. And the girl, meanwhile, is laughing like a total psycho. Zilkin's like, with her slowed down, we can take her out. Right after, he tells Karnak to jump into the fight. Alan fires up his aura around the sword, telling his master he's good to go. Then, the woman charges at the enemy, landing a hit on the vampire, who, in turn, keeps grinning. The group's leader jokes that even now she's having a blast and thinks they might just win at this rate. Then, Karnak goes on the attack with the other mages. The boy stretches out his staff, saying with the crystal ball's eye, he can pierce the earth. Hearing that, the vampire starts screaming in pain. The knights are shook because just with the kid's approach, the woman's vibe totally changed. Right after, the woman turns and bolts. Poof, gone. Zilkin's like, what just happened? And turns to Karnak, fuming, asking what he did. The young guy's like, I didn't even get to do anything. And the dude figures it might have just been a fluke. A guy rolls up, saying maybe the creature realized it was losing and bailed. Zilkin's like, those cursed by a blade usually can't think straight. And the boy's like, either way, we gotta catch her before Merida gets too far. The dude then orders them to start tracking the target again. But Melee's like, we've got a problem. Because apparently, the cursed blade's pattern switched up, leaving no clues. Hearing this, the leaders shook. They totally lost the trail. Alan tells his master the sun's setting, and he warns that Merida will be stronger at night. The leader's like, we can't keep searching, gotta switch plans, deciding to fall back to a safe spot. After a while, Zilkin's like, we need to rethink our game plan, and says, luckily, the sword's only active around the city, so we're safe in the center. Right after, he tells them to catch some Z's overnight. In their rooms, the woman tells her crew she didn't think Merida would run. It's just a fluke. Baroth, in turn, asks his master to spill the beans and questions what went down, and what he had done behind their backs. The main dude, totally clueless, just shrugs. Then, the knights all, why's the evil spirit scared of me? But he's like, seeing me like this shouldn't freak Merida out. Not like I'm the big bad necromancer lord anymore. Karnak's nodding, saying no way the spirit time traveled to see his pass, and the woman's like, it's just a fluke. Then, the convo gets cut off by the woman's stomach, growling like a bear. The main dude jumps up, saying they should grab some grub first. Feeling awkward, the woman's like, let's hit the restaurant, guys. Out on the streets, 2 knights leave a bar, stuffed and happy. One's like, we should crash. Tomorrow's gonna be wild. Then, the guys all, never seen a cursed blade like that, and his buddy's like, dude, we've seen crazier. Like Karnak, always doing weird stuff, like when he stares at us without saying a word. Then, something grabs their attention, and it's Merida, right in front of them. One guy's like, why is she here? She should be chilling in the city. and his buddy's like, we gotta report this as soon as possible. But before they can move, the vampire takes them out. Next morning, the squad finds out they're 2 members down. Milia's like, they're just like the village victims, definitely Marita's work. Zilken's shocked the evil spirit hit the city, and the main dude's like, no way, didn't feel any dark vibes. The leader's like, how'd the clerics miss this? They're like, we hit the hay early. Bareth's curious if his master noticed anything, and he's like, nope. The boy's puzzled his buddy didn't sense anything, even with necromancy, and Karnak's like, more shocked than you, bro. Then, the guy asks if the women can track Merida, and they're like, no traces left. Milia's like, maybe the soldiers were offed elsewhere and dumped here. Then, they realize they're dealing with a puppet master, and there might be others controlling the cursed blade. Zilken's like, Dark God's cult might be in on this, and the main dude's like, if that's true, I'd know. Unless there's some secret skill I'm missing. One Knight's like, what's the plan? We didn't see Merida's ambush coming. The leader's like, usually the evil spirit's just around the city. How'd it hit the center? Then, he's like, seems the vampire's after the king's orders. His buddy's like, since she's hunting us, no need to hunt her. And Zilken's like, just gotta be ready for a sneak attack. Karnak's like, let's crash in nearby rooms, so we can jump into action if something goes down. After a bit, the leader finds a spot for the crew. The main dude's like, is it cool to crash a noble's pad? The guy's like, no worries. It's my relative's mansion. Then, he spills that the whole city's pitching in with supplies and help, sick of the vampire's chaos. Karnak's like, hope this speeds up catching the baddie, and the leader's like, just a bit more hustle, guys. Then, he tells the crew to check their gear while waiting for Merida news. Time flies, and the soldiers are training in the garden. Alin's bummed, 4 days and no intel. But her pals are chill, using the downtime to chow down. Bareth's like, no need for extra guards in daylight. Vampires hate the sun, they won't come out. But Karnak's like, better safe than sorry. Necromancers might strike when we least expect it. Then, boom, an explosion rocks the mansion. All the knights rush to face the threat. And it's Merida, shocking everyone by showing up in daylight. The woman decides to go all in and strike first, but she can't land a hit on any of the targets. One knight notices it's way easier to dodge than before, and her power's looking kinda weak. Then, he says an aura user should be enough to beat her. One dude mentions Aylin's grabbing lunch nearby and will be there soon to help, and they just gotta hang tight until the girl shows up. Merida sees her chance to make a move on the guys, but she zooms right past the guards. Heading straight for a specific group, she attacks, but everyone dodges like ninjas. Still, the vampire's not giving up and keeps trying to hit them. People outside the fight are like, what's going on? Since the curse blade's only going for the 7th squad, and it seems she's after someone specific. Alin finally shows up in the chaos. Surprised, it's actually Merida. Then, the vampire takes a swing at the knight she's after, but Alin jumps in to save him. Seeing that, the creature's totally shocked. Then, the woman charges at her opponent, teasing, saying she expected more from her. Merida attacks again, but misses, again. Right after, she decides it's time to bail. But the red-haired girl says she's not getting away this time. But when she looks, Merida's gone, like poof. She just vanished. Next scene, some extras are chatting about why the vampire attacked in daylight, and one asks if she ran off without taking anyone down. Zilken calls a meeting, saying the enemy invaded but bounced as soon as she lost the upper hand, and mentions it means the spirits got some brains. One of his pals says it's hard to believe that thing's actually conscious. The leader switches topics, saying the cursed sword's target was the king's order, and someone asks why. Zilken asks if Karnak's got any clue what's up, and the boy says something weird happened in the forest ambush. Kaz Merida seemed to be aiming at specific targets, and his buddy notes the first 2 city victims were also from the 7th Battalion. The leader remembers the vampire started acting odd when Karnak, leader of the 7th Battalion, showed up and wonders if the cursed blades linked to the 7th Battalion. But the main character says the woman can't tell people apart by their battalions. Alan mentions it'd be great if they had some kind of proof, and the guy's curious how they could do that. And the woman suggests switching places. The 1st Battalion can move to the outer houses while the 7th stays inside. Then, she says they could wait for Merida to pop up again to see what she does and maybe figure something out. Zilken says that's a solid plan. At night, the 1st squad's patrolling outside the house. One 7th Battalion member's getting jittery inside, wondering why they gotta wait to get ambushed. Meanwhile, a dude asks the leader if the vampire's really gonna attack again, and he says since she did it once, she might do it again. Then, he mentions they gotta stay alert, especially now that they know she can strike day or night. That boy stands up, telling his master there's gotta be some mistake, and it's probably just a coincidence. But suddenly, Merida crashes through the roof. Everyone scrambles to get ready for battle. Then, the aura users charge at the bloodsucker, but she dodges like a pro. The 2 team up to keep the fight going. The vampire looks at them all sad, deciding to make a quick exit. But this time, the two knights decide to chase her down, kicking off a citywide chase. Alan says they can't let the enemy get away. She and her buddy speed up to try and catch her, but the vampire spins around, launching an attack at them. Luckily, they activate the aura shield just in time. Then, boom, an explosion goes off, blasting the two away, giving Merida a chance to escape. The young guy says at least they learned something. Alan says the vampire's definitely after that young knight and it'd be smart to run a few more tests. Back at the house, Zilkin sets up a magic circle around the boy and says it'll erase any trace of him and keep it that way while he's in the circle. Then, the man comments the vampire's probably using scent and resonance to track her targets. Right after, the lady rolls up to the kid, telling him to chill there, because it's way safer. Lepin lets out a big sigh, saying it feels like he's in jail. Next morning, everyone's buzzing about how the knight didn't leave his room. One dude cracks up, saying the guy must be super annoyed. Boom. Out of nowhere, there's an explosion. And guess who's back? Merida. Everyone's shook because Lepin's still chilling in his room. Then, Merida fires off an attack, but it starts dodging people like it's got a mind of its own. Everyone's like, whoa, it's heading straight for Frost. But before anything wild happens, Alan swoops in to save the day. His buddy sees a chance to finally take down the vampire. Merida's all frustrated, deciding to bounce again. The guy's like, how's that thing so speedy? With all the chaos, Zilkin hears the vampire's back, attacking another 7th Battalion member. He's like, this can't be random. The young dude's all, Karnak, you sure you don't know what's up? And Karnak's like, no clue. Frost steps up, asking if he can throw out a wild idea. The main guy's like, sure, hit me with it. The knight's like, seems like Merida's picking off people closest to Karnak. Cause, when the vampire ran after seeing the main guy, the attack order matched who was around him. Baroth's like, that actually makes sense. Frost admits it's a crazy thought, but they're out of ideas. Harris says, whatever we think, it's something we can check out. The boy spills that, according to the order, his buddy Krant's next. Zilkin's like, let's put Frost and Lepin in the magic bubble and not tell Krant. That night, another attack goes down. The leader sees the vampire hit the young dude, just as they thought. Karnak's wondering if there's really a connection. Later, they have another meeting, and Zilkin's like, at least we know Merida's pattern now. He suggests using this to trap her. Someone's like, let's head to a less crowded spot, and Alan's like, that'll make chasing her easier. Zilkin decides they'll move to an open field with a clear view. Then, he mentions setting up a command post to the north, waiting for the cursed blade. Once they're at the new spot, the leader tells everyone this is their best shot at handling Merida's surprise attacks. He says the plan is to keep Lepin and Frost at the camp, and they'll jump into a magic barrier when the lady shows up. The guy says they aim to separate the blade from the girl, trying not to hurt her. A young girl asks if it'd be easier to just take her out, but Zilkin's like, nah, we save every life we can. Alan gets all emotional, saying the guy knows how to give a speech. Baroth asks if his master plans to harm the girl, and he says no, because turning her undead would be too obvious. Then, the leader tells everyone to wait for the cursed blade in their spots. By late afternoon, everyone's chilling around a campfire. Lepin asks Karnak how long till the vampire shows, and the boy's like, not long. She attacks daily. Then a guard's like, Merida's here. The vampire rolls up to the camp, grinning. Zilkin quickly tells everyone to get in position. Everyone starts moving to kick off the plan. Baroth tells some they're leading the first defense line, warning not to give blood to the cursed blade. He orders everyone to focus on defense, wearing down the enemy. A bunch of knights charge at the lady. Baroth tells his crew to keep pushing, giving her no escape. Loads of people attack her at once, but she defends herself like a pro. Merida gears up to launch an attack. She hits the ground, almost getting everyone on the battlefield. Baroth peeps the sun dipping down and he's like, oh, this is gonna get tricky, cause vampires get all beefed up at night. The kids all, yo squad, hustle up and hit her blind spots. Two knights sneak up behind Merida, but she's like, not today, and sends them flying. A young girl tries to sneak in a hit, but nope, the vampire's got ninja reflexes. She's blocking attacks like a pro. Then she jumps back, and boom, makes a huge explosion to keep moving. Everyone's like, oh snap, she's heading for the target. Baroth grins, exactly as planned, folks. Seeing this, two mages whip out their lightning skills. A massive bolt strikes, but she's got a shield, no sweat. Then she whips out her cursed blade and zaps the electricity away. The kid's like, mission accomplished, guys. Then they turn around and the girl's like, gotta get to the other side of camp. A bunch of knights sneak up from behind. The battle lights up the whole camp like a disco. Way off, a team member spots Baroth's moves, and he's like, dude's hitting bullseyes on moving targets. No biggie. Almost like he's reading her mind. Triv's like, how's this swordsman not using his battle aura yet? Merida's still duking it out with the knights. Baroth's thinking they almost got the vampire where they want her. Then he's like, time for plan B, guys. The kid signals his crew. Everyone's grinning, ready to roll. Then the knights start backing off. Merida's like, weird flex, but okay. Then she smirks and charges toward her goal. But a young dude blocks her path. He tells Aylin, your turn. And she's like, ladies first. The girl faces off with the vampire, leaving the villain super ticked off. The knight sees the enemies running on empty. Aylin's like, less chat, more action. Let's wrap this up. The girl's buddy tells Frost to hit the trap, and the young dude takes off, while his pals keep the vampire busy. Frost finally finds the cave entrance. Allen's like, get in the magic barrier, stat. The knight bolts to the magic circle. The vampire tries to stop him, but Frost makes it inside the barrier. Marida's like, what just happened? The girl's like, everything's going smooth, she's clueless. Then she turns to the cave. Final stage, guys. Zilkin's like, Lepen, you're up. The kid steps out of the barrier. The vampire senses him and zooms toward the cave. The girl joins the leader and his crew. Zilkin's like, Lepen, step back. Then Triv throws down with the cursed blade, wrecking the cave. The knight gets pushed back. Marita charges at the vampire. Zilkin fires off his electric shots, but she blocks them. No time wasted. He throws fire magic, but the vampire's like, missed me. Triv jumps in and attacks, but she dodges again. Merida is getting stressed from the pressure. Then she hits back, sending the knight flying. The guy's like, how's she still got juice left? Then Alain and her buddy jump in, making the vampire even more annoyed. She decides to bail again. Zilkin's like, hold her off a bit longer, almost done here. The girl and her buddy chase her, but can't land a hit. Triv charges straight at the vampire, but she knocks him down. Then Marita flies to the exit, laughing. But she runs into Karnak, who's like, where you headed? The kid's curious about this creature. For some reason, she freaks out and flies back to the cave. Zilkin's like, bringing Karnak was genius. Then he uses a crystal power on the vampire, trapping her in. Merida tries to escape up top, but the cage locks tight. The vampire's freaking out, banging around. Zilkin's like, it's all on Karnak now. The hero powers up his staff and slams it down, creating a bunch of shiny chains that latch onto the cursed sword, making the vampire super mad. The leader's all, the ground's not enough, it'll break free. Marida's like, nah, and puts in more muscle, and the chains start popping off the ground. Our hero snaps his fingers, calling on the earth's spirit, because he saw this coming. Boom, golems pop up everywhere. Zilkin's all, whoa, a genius archmage in you still. The boy's like, yo, take down the baddie. All the golems grab the chains tight. Aylin zooms in on the stuck vampire and locks her arms down. His buddy jumps in, yanking the girl from the cursed sword, but the leader's like, not done yet. Triv swoops in, slicing the aura linking her to the sword. Zilkan flexes his skills to tame the blade. With the sword locked down, Karnak's like, I'll keep it trapped for now. Then the dude's all, how's the girl? And Alin's like, not a scratch on her. Zilkin bounces out of the cave, firing blue lights, and joins the squad, saying he called the clerics to seal the sword, but a knight's like, something's fishy, cause the girl fought but barely got a bruise, and he's curious if the sword gave her some buff. Then, the girl wakes up and freaks out, jumping away from the strangers. Triv's like, uh-oh, something's off. A weird aura wraps around her, and she yells about saving humans. Everyone's like, whoa, she's a purple knight. Suddenly, she vanishes and reappears behind Triv, kicking him right in the face, knocking him out cold. Then she needs another dude. Facing Aylin and the leader, she insists on defending humans and smacks Zilkin, leaving just the girl. She charges at Alan, but Alan dodges her kicks. The young woman senses her opponent's killer vibe and wonders why it's different with her. Then, the girl almost gets hit by some shots. Karnak shows up, asking what's going on. Seeing him, the girl gets even more ticked off. The hero's shocked she knows him. She attacks the young man, making him accidentally use necromancy to block, but even with the shield, he gets tossed far. Then the crew shows up, trying to take her down, but she defends herself. Milia warns everyone, cause Merida is using necromancy. Everyone sees the leader and Triv are down, and guess the mission ain't over. Bareth checks if his master is okay. The girl uses the knight's distraction to charge at him, calling him Sir Bareth, but he dodges. Hearing her call him that, the young man realizes she knows him from before they time traveled. A knight squad steps up to shield the boy, but she quickly takes them out. Two guys try to sneak attack her, but she stops their swords with her fingers, then knocks them out cold. Elaine notes the girl's not having fun anymore. Karnak's like, no clue what's up, but she's strong without the sword. Bareth asks if his master knows anything about her, and he says no. The girl glares, talking about the hero with hate. Then she knocks out another knight and grabs his sword. She shocks everyone by activating 3 auras at once. The guys get nervous, but stand their ground. They know they can't let her near Karnak and his buddy. Bareth mentions only 4th level silver knights can do that. The hero feels the presence is familiar, but can't place it. Then the girl yells that Karnak cursed the necromancer king. Hearing that, the boys remember who she is. All the knights think she's tripping. The hero quickly decides to use his powers, saying he's gonna end this. Alright, so check this out. The opponent's all about that shield life, blocking like a pro. Then, boom, the knights are like, wait, where'd those 3 go? One kid's super curious, like, what just happened? 2 7th Battalion dudes are all chill, saying, no biggie, they'll be back with a plan. Nearby, our main guy's got this barrier up, making them invisible, and his buddy's like, whoa, what's that? The kid's all, that's Raphael. Anne drops the bomb that she's one of the 4 great kings. The girl, totally shook. Karnak's like, she was the youngest great king, even fought me as a necromancer king. His buddy's like, what did you do to tick her off? Bareth spills the tea, saying his master killed her and her mom, then made them fight. Yikes. Then he goes, master trashed her body, made her guard the necropolis. Alan's wondering why Raphael's after her, and the main dude's like, maybe she thinks you sold your soul to me. Karnak's all, whoa, she followed us through space-time, and his friend's like, how even? Meanwhile, the girl's still knocking out knights, and Alan's like, why is she doing that? The boys explain she's got her old memories and is trying to stop the necromancer lord from mind controlling them. The girl's curious if Bareth was as strong as the great kings before time travel. The young dude's like, I was better, and his buddy's like, why can't you use your old skills like Raphael? Karnak's like, different situations, starting with the blade. But then the main guy's like, wait, I know how she took my aura. He explains the opponents using the cursed blade, which absorbs blood power and gives a dark battle aura. Alan's like, is that even possible? Bareth's like, totally. Raphael's a sword master, always finds a way. The main guy's like, power's borrowed, she can't get it back, we need Baroth's power. The kid's like, does master want me to use the cursed blade? And gets a yes, with magic to hide him. After a bit, Raphael's done with the knights, and she's all smiles, saying she saved them. Then she starts calling out the necromancer king. Bareth's in front of her, but invisible. The girl's walking towards the kid, and Karnak's like, dude, you'll get caught. The main guy's like, time to call the Earth's souls. And bam, golems pop up. But Raphael's like, nah, and starts attacking them. Karnak's like, this won't last, time for action. He stretches his hand, summoning his servant, and armor appears on the girl. Main guy's like, blood demon armor, now you can fight. The girl's like, is my soul safe? But her master ignores her, saying they gotta help. Then the young dude drops the barrier, revealing their spot. Raphael charges, saying she'll take down the necromancer king. But Alan steps up. The girl's thinking, I feel nothing in this armor, but it's powerful. Then they split. Raphael goes for an attack, but Alan, struggling, blocks with his shield. Still, she gets thrown back, realizing she can't keep this up. Meanwhile, Bareth's watching from a distance, and he's like, gotta hurry. Then he finds the cursed blade, wondering if he can handle it. The knight grabs the sword, and it starts whispering, join the dark side. Bareth's shouting, trying to resist. Karnak sees everyone knocked out, and he's like, sweet, I can use necromancy without being seen. Then the boy calls his ghost squad, summoning spirits, ordering them to charge. The ghosts rush the girl, and Alan gets tossed far away. After that, Raphael stomps the ground, scaring those spirits away, and uses that chance to charge at the necromancer king. Seeing this, Alan warns her buddy to be careful, but still, Karnak can't dodge and gets a neck hit. But, plot twist, it was just an illusion. After that, the hero summons a bunch of clones, saying he was ready for this, and all he needed was for Bareth to show up. Raphael keeps taking out those clones. Aline wonders where her master's real body is. Karnak uses the messaging system to call his buddy behind a rock. The girl asks when the enemy would run out of steam, since she's been fighting since sunset. The hero says she's already weak because her aura's low. The girl jokes they'd lose anyway if Bareth didn't hurry up. Soon after, Raphael senses something, and dodges some magic swords raining down. The girl realizes it's dark battle aura. Someone shows up asking if Alan's still kicking. Bareth then pops up holding the cursed blade. Karnak's mad, saying his buddy's late, and he says he came as fast as he could. The girl checks if her buddy's okay because that blade messes with humans. Then, a spirit pops out of the sword, but the boy shoves it back. Bareth says as soon as he grabbed the cursed blade, its spirit tried to bail. Then, he tells his buddies that controlling dark battle aura is his jam, so no worries. The knight then steps up to his enemy, who calls him the necromancer king's pet. Soon after, the two clash their auras. Without wasting time, Raphael launches one of her attacks, but Bareth blocks it. Then, the boy stabs his sword into the ground, summoning a massive spirit. The girl doesn't lag behind and does the same, summoning a similar spirit. The two birds collide, causing a boom. Karnak notices their enemy's energy is draining fast, but the cursed blade's not strong enough. Shortly after, the boy remembers why Raphael's acting weird. The hero explains he split her soul into 3 to be Necropia guards, giving them different orders, but now they're confused, because now the 3 are one. Alan's curious about the original command, and her buddy says it's not important now, but he sees a fix. Then, he says if the 3 soul parts are recombined to heal her, the girl would chill out again. The young guy wonders if he can handle the healing magic, since he hasn't used it yet. Then, he starts his magic, creating a circle around him. Meanwhile, Barroth keeps battling his enemy, and asks what his master is doing, and he, in turn, asks his buddy to hang on a bit longer, as he'll seal Rapisol's memories to heal her soul. The girl charges, taking advantage of her enemy being distracted. Luckily, the knight dodges. Without giving him a break, the girl sends a flurry of slashes his way. Barroth's frustrated because the blade's acting up again. The boy gets a cut on his arm. Then, the cursed blade's soul tries to escape again, leaving the young guy hanging. Karnak's not happy because he needed more time. Seeing that, Rapisol grins and hits her enemy's hand, separating him from his weapon. Along with that, Barroth starts feeling pain in his shoulder. The girl seizes the chance to try to end the fight, but Alan arrives just in time to defend her buddy. Mad about that, the girl kicks the woman in the stomach, sending her flying. Without wasting time, Rapisol charges at her enemy again, but she blocks it. Barroth realizes his buddy's a real prodigy, as she's perfectly turning the dark battle aura into her own aura to use, and he wonders how she pulled that off when no one taught her. Suddenly, the boy notices something. Rapisol keeps pushing her enemy. Alan thinks she can't hold out much longer, but before she can continue, the girl gets hit, getting slammed against the wall. Barroth shows up holding the cursed blade, saying that's how you use your own aura. Seeing that, Karnak wonders if his buddy finally unlocked his power. Fearlessly, Rapisol charges at the knight, clashing their powers. The boy notices his enemy's aura is fading. Then, he takes advantage of that weak moment and throws the girl off balance, landing a hit on her. The hero gets hyped because Rapisol's soul is totally destroyed. Alright, so the dude finally decides to whip out his magic skills. Boom! A massive energy circle pops up around the girl. She starts screaming, like, ouch level pain. Then, bam! She's out cold on the ground. Barroth's all, phew, that was close. His squad rolls up, asking if he finally got his aura game on. He's like, kinda, thanks to my opponent, and Karnak's all ears, wondering what he means. The boy remembers his master saying he's not much different from a dark magic necromancer. He knew how to use battle aura, but was figuring out how to store it up. Then, he found a perfect example right in front of him, so he copied his opponent's move, but he admits he still needs time to get it down pat. Karnak's like, hey, that's good news, and his buddy says now he can use that skill to boost his battle aura. Soon after, the girl wakes up. The main dude tells his crew he wiped her memory, so she won't remember a thing. The boys grin, asking the girl if she knows them. She just stares at them, all silent. The boys start sweating. Then she asks who they are. Karnak wonders if she remembers herself. She says she remembers the boy calling her Rapisol. The main guy freaks out, realizing he messed up. They ask if she remembers anything else besides her name. Alan asks if she knows what that sword was. She says nope, just her name, not even who she is. Barroth's like, well, that's a relief. The girl walks up to the main dude, asking if he knows her. Every time she looks at him, her heart does a weird dance, so she figures he must be super important to her. Then, with puppy eyes, she asks if she can stick with him. Seeing her like that, the boys feel kinda guilty. Karnak says they can't decide her future right now. They'll talk about it once things settle down. Barroth wonders what to do, and the main guy says to keep her close to make sure her memory stays sealed. But they need a reason to keep her around. Next morning, at camp, everyone's gearing up after the epic battle. Zilkin hears the cursed blade turned into that girl. His buddy says it must be true, since only energy's left in the blade and the evil's gone. Aelin figures out why his master left some energy in the blade. Everyone's amazed Karnak beat Merida with his golems. The leader asks Milia how the girl is, and she says she's good. The main guy wonders what's next, and Zilkin says they'll take the blade to the big temple in the capital for checks. Milia says they'll leave the girl at a local temple. Karnak asks if she remembers what he told her, and she nods. Alin asks if they can take care of the girl. The girl says she sees potential in her with the sword and wants her as an apprentice. The mage agrees. Zilkin's happy with their plan. The girl gets pumped, saying she'll give it her all. Then, the main guy pulls the commander aside for a chat. Outside, he asks the commander to write a letter saying he handled the problem solo. Zilkin says no need, he doesn't want all the glory. Karnak says his buddy took down the cursed blade. They were just backup. The commander wonders why he should do that, and the young guy says people are jealous of his quick rise. Zilkin agrees, saying his fast climb made him a target, but the young guy feels weird about tweaking the report. The boy says there's no need to alert everyone that they couldn't figure out the cult's plan. That way, they avoid criticism that could mess up their work, and the commander agrees, the protagonist grinning because he snagged what he was after. Then, Zilkin gives Karnak a big thanks for all his hard work, saying if he ever needs anything, he's got his back. Fast forward a few days, At the King's HQ, everyone's buzzing about how Zilkan and Triv handled Merida. Someone pipes up, saying the 7th was probably bummed out. Meanwhile, Baroth's getting props for waking up his aura, which makes him all shy and stuff. Right after, Karnak shows up, and his buddy asks if he chatted with the commander. The protagonist nods, saying he did and asked for some vacay time, because he's got some stuff to sort out with Rapazul. Then he realizes it's kind of weird leaving the girl alone at an inn, so he decides to get her a house. Down south of the capital, at Karnak's crib, Aelin's training the girl. The protagonist's watching, but then Baroth pops up. The dude gets a bit spooked, and Baroth says his master was super into the girl's training. Karnak says he was just making sure her memory was locked up, and his buddy gets curious about why he was hiding. The protagonist explains it was cause of the way the girl looks at them. Then he spills to his buddy that he's got some hunches about how Rapazul could mess with space-time. The boy says there's probably someone who knows how to do a time rewind spell. Baroth chimes in, saying even the 3 archmages couldn't pull that off. And even the 4 great kings can't do it, so who could? Karnak reminds his pal about the space stone they used to time travel. The boy says he thought when they left, the past would change and the future would vanish. With that, the protagonist starts thinking the stone's still around, and Baroth says it doesn't mean someone can time travel. The boy recalls when he was the necromancer lord, he left 3 peeps he was keen on using smartly, and he says they were more than capable of researching the stone and learning to time travel. Baroth adds that if that's true, it's his master's fault again. Right after, Karnak says it makes sense they sent Rapazul, but he's curious about how to prove this theory. Meanwhile, in Elazar's tower, the woman gets the scoop on the shady folks she asked about. In her report, she checks out the descriptions of Zilkan and Triv. Hudel says those 2 apparently took down the cursed blade, and at the scene, the sword had dark vibes, but nothing beyond its original energy, making him think they secretly used necromancy. The woman realizes this means they haven't been fully busted yet. Her sidekick suggests they hang back for now to scope out those folks. Then, Elazar finds out the cursed blade wiped out hundreds in just a few days. Shocked, she asks if the report's for real, and Hudel confirms it is, and it was all done by an orphan girl. The woman wonders if there's something special in the cursed blade's soul. Elazar then orders her sidekick to grab the cursed blade, and Hudel says now it's just a regular sword, and they probably won't learn much from it. But still, the woman says she wants the cursed blade, because she's got a weird feeling about it.